Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Oh boy. I am super excited to see how this book continues because it is so freaking good. Only thing is, I've been thinking about, maybe we do some Genshin or something afterwards. I still haven't fully figured out the issue with the capture card, so we might have another like janky capture card stream part later, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Hi, Crystal. How are you doing? Also, I should turn on this. Hello. I am here. Doing good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm a bit sleepy, but we're doing all right. There you go. It'll be fine. I don't think we're gonna finish this book today. We have like 100 pages left, but definitely means probably this week, sometime during the week, I have to go into town and see if I can get the next book, just so we have it ready. And who knows, maybe I'll do that in the Discord call, just like chilling in the call, walking around town with cam on so you guys can watch me run around town and show you things. So if anyone wants to join that, like Crystal maybe or somebody else. Have free time? All right. I'm sure we'll figure something out. I could basically do it any day of the week. So if you have a free day at some point, just let me know. We can do it on that day. It should definitely be, it's definitely gonna be in the week. Thursday? We can do that on Thursday, yeah. I got me some tea again in an Incredibles mug. Happy with, aw, cute. What kind of tea? The same as always. Orange and ginger, and added a little bit of honey. Same as always. I could switch it to lemon and ginger, or lemongrass and ginger. But having like ginger and honey on a day like this, where like, I'm using my voice a lot, it's definitely very nice. Oh, I'm sure you do. Like lemongrass though, fair. I'm sure you do like lemons. But I am super excited with this book today because holy shit. Lemons at the store. Ooh, let's go. Like, holy shit, this is getting crazy. It's getting so good. Also for water with lemons. Ooh, that sounds so good. Also for anybody who has not seen my like makeshift bookmark I'm using, it's not actually like a bookmark, but it came in an order when I bought something off of the League of Legends merch store, and I was just using it. It's like a little cart with like a little design on it. It's very cute. But yeah, I can show the back. It's like special delivery. Thank you for your purchase, for your support, and we hope you enjoy your merch. Official Riot merch. That shit was expensive. Let me see you. Let me show you guys. I got it for like a birthday once. Like my parents were like, oh, just order something if you want something, and it was like $80, and it's in this little box here. I got it like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Like a nice little little jewelry box. Yo, what's up, Ben? Inside, it's a nice little pouch. And inside of that is this little bracelet. It says True Damage on it, which was like one of their like virtual bands they created that made music. But this was like $80. This bracelet, like, what the fuck? And like, just like that, it doesn't even fit me. I have to open it up, and oh my god, like the little clips that the little hinge that it is using is super fucking annoying. Like this little clip here right there, this is the little hinge, and trying to get that on while it's already wrapped around your hand is super annoying. Looks really cool though. It does. And it is from my... Its design is based on my favorite champion in the game that I used to play when I played League, which I haven't played in like 7 years or something. But, you know. I still enjoy the universe of the game and everything around it. I just don't play it. But like, goddamn, trying to get this on is a pain in the ass. Like, I'm trying to do that right now, but like, I can't even like grab it correctly right now. I should probably also do it this way, actually. Oh my god. I'm too stupid for this. Yeah, I'm too stupid for these clasps. Oh my god. This is stay for a moment so I can. But yo, what's up, Ben? How's it going? Man, trying to. Hate it here. I barely have even worn this. Like, it's literally just sitting in its box at home. I wore it like 4 times outside or something. I should wear it more. Hey, I did it. It's not on like, it's a bit loose, but you know, I did it. There we go. Me want to crash out, bruh. Just get good. I don't know. I never do the theater. I'm not good enough. Hey, it's okay. It's an optional thing. I mean, to be fair, they give you like really mid builds for the trial characters. Like, if you don't have other really good units, then you're kind of fucked. What guest character from somebody else did you pick, actually, Ben? Did you pick any of my characters, or did you pick somebody else's? You know, I unclasped it for a second because I was trying to like maybe get it a bit tighter, and now I'm not able to get it back on. My Shilonen, ooh, nice. I mean, who doesn't like looking at Shilonen? Yo, Angel, what's up? Oh yeah, Angel, I should show the clip, the edit you made on stream. Ben, you're in that clip, by the way. Angel made an edit of one of my clips, and you're in there as well. It was a Monster Hunter clip with us all. Like, I'm trying to put this bracelet back on right now. Give me a second. Try my best. Hey, no, it's okay. It's good. I like it. Made me laugh. Oh my god, I hate this bracelet right now. Ah! How do people put this shit on? Like, huh? I don't. The thing is, I have like really fat fingers, so it's like really hard to like grasp this tiny little clasp. There we go. It's back on. Yeah, I just gotta train my fingers a little bit more, you know. Maybe finish building my chevres. Ooh, fuck yeah. But yeah, it's back on, guys. There we go. Yay. All right. We could wear it for today. Why not? You mean training your fingers? Mm-hmm. With rhythm games, you know? Unless, Crystal, if you want to help me. I just quickly I go here. Okay. So yeah, first of all, the bracelet that I'm wearing is based on this skin right here. On this character.
Your dick's small.
No. So yeah, this is what the bracelet is based on. Cause he even has it in his hand right here. There. It's even here. I never noticed that actually. But it's exactly my bracelet. Fell in love with her, but I'll behave and not get her now since she won't help me much. I still have to play all of the new quests. I haven't done the event, I haven't done the quest. I haven't done any of it. Yeah, so this is what my what this bracelet that I have here is based on. It's cute. I'm probably gonna like it, yeah. Arlecchino quest. It's a good quest. Okay, let me now pull up Angel's clip real quick that he edited. Let me see. Okay, it's cut out a bit more than I wanted to. Give me a second, I'll fix it. There we go. So this was an edit made by Angel from one of my clips. I mean, Ben... I was playing with Ben, Joe, and Harry there, so... conversations can be a bit unhinged, obviously, with us.
Hell got me.
It tried to drill into me.
I don't like where this is going.
I don't like that.
Hey,
I'm wet again.
what did he say?
Goddamn.
Jesus.
Stop making me wet.
That's what she said? We got a wound on the tail.
I can see that. Just on the tip.
Just the tip.
There you go.
Joe knows a lot about just the tip.
Thank you, friend. No worries, Shara. Enjoy your repo time with friends. And I appreciate the lurk. I mean, Joe does. You're not wrong. That's wild, right? I mean, that is just, you know, shit you say when you play Monster Hunter. To be fair, the status effect that's actually called wet, it's water blight, but I mean, you're basically getting wet. Cutie alert. Yeah, I see so many cuties in the chat. Anyway, thank you guys. Hey, no, I mean, it's good. I like it, and everybody starts somewhere. Like, as good as it already is, you know, there's only war up. Like, there's only room for more improvement over time. The more you do it, the more you practice, the better you get. And if the baseline's already good, then it can just get even better. No. Yeah, no, we've had some crazy ass conversations. Some of them probably shouldn't be on stream. I don't think back then when we were playing It Takes Two, somebody clipped the whole section during the B part when Ben and I went on a very interesting rant. I know we have some It Takes Two clips. The Way Out ones are interesting. Yeah, those two. I just I know we have a few clips from It Takes Two when we broke the musical chairs mini game, which was fucking hilarious, by the way. The B. Yeah, man, I'm still waiting for that emote, Ben. If you ever get the money for it. I'm from a VTuber. I mean, I wasn't wrong. No, you're not. That B was thick. You are correct. Let me see if I can find those It Takes Two clips. Oh my god. I mean, Crystal, have you seen the Queen Bee in It Takes Two? I don't think I have a clip of it, sadly, but God, there's 3 clips we made from that section here. Let me just see. I don't know how we broke it, but somehow just managed to break the minigame.
I won.
I am calling bullshit. I am calling extreme bullshit.
Same.
Do we hear games? Yeah, so far we haven't. But you know, we still have one more game to go through.
See? I win. 3-0. What the? Why are you still going?
You getting wet? I keep pausing.
I'm taking that as a clip. Fucking hell, that is hilarious.
Yeah, so Ben was stuck in still running around in circles even though the game was over. Like, he could not move. He was stuck in like being forced running around in circles while I was able to move around normally. I don't know how we managed to do that. And then it even went so far as to
I'm kind of stuck.
What if I trigger a cutscene? Like, what if I just go to the next area? Oh. Yes. I went too far away. I guess it cancels it out.
oh, and now I have no animations.
Wait. Can you move?
It's going again. It's going again.
I have no animations.
Oh, you could definitely hear the mic quality difference because that was still on my headset mic and not on this mic here. But damn, yeah, we had no animations and like we completely broke that shit. The Way Out clip. Let me see if I can find that one. Oh, there, the lousy sniper. One of my favorite clips.
I want that sniper.
Sniper, just stay low.
I want the sniper. Give me sniper. Fucking hell.
Well, he's a really lousy with that sniper. What the fuck?
As soon as he says that, he gets shot. Like, couldn't have been more perfect timing, you know? What else do we have here? German song? No, we're not gonna be playing German Goofy Goober. I'm not gonna do that. Nuh-uh. What is this Exoprimal clip? The games we've played together, right? It's crazy.
Wait, Toby, theoretically,
What?
what counts for your in-game ban action, in-game action? What do you count? What is
Mostly
allowed?
anything. It really depends.
How many points do I have?
I know that Shadow would have enough, or Yuki.
I have enough for one.
Oh my god.
Okay. I don't know. Oh, and oh yeah, this one was the writing mistake in the subtitles. Yeah, we played a lot of games together, Ben. It's crazy. Oh yeah. When I forgot that I put a costume on the handler, and it just caught me off guard so hard in that moment when I did the fucking Steamworks, man. Cause like the cutscene plays, it's like the cat's coming in and then the handler jumps in to also look, but my handler looks a bit different.
I totally forgot about that.
Man. She just looks a bit different, you know. She's going through it right now. She's just going through it. I hope she's okay. Oh yeah, I cannot wait, Ben. I really want to play Split Fiction. I mean, we still have to play We Were Here Together, We Were Here Expeditions, and then we should play Split Fiction next, for sure. What's this one?
Mozzie, I got you. If you I got you.
Oh shit.
If you go down, I got you. Maybe. Shit, you're in there. I don't think I got you. Maybe I got you. Wait, where's the exit? Oh shit, he's here.
I don't got him. Damn. Alright. Let's go back to this. Drunk stream. Bro, we were so fucked up.
Emotional damage!
Yo, what's up, Lemons? A few ideas just by watching your clips, bro. I like knock yourself out, Angel. You could go through my entire clip library. They're all public anyway, like. I think there's a clip somewhere as well of me saying daddy.
I will send you to Jesus.
But yeah, man, just if you want to practice and all. Yeah, Angel, usually it's the other way around. People call me daddy. But oh well. Not me. What's this? Playing Repo. Oh, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. Oh, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. Okay, I saved this. Oh yeah. I forgot. They were holding that clown. It's like I was just like, you know, I was messing with this piano trying to save it because I held it. It's like, okay, I saved it. I put it back in place. Okay, I saved it. I look what they're doing. I see them messing around with the clown. I just go in, tap the nose.
No, what? I already pushed it.
Why did you kill him?
That was planned. We did find more co-games. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we definitely still have We Were Here to expeditions, and then we have Split Fiction, but we need more after that. We should definitely do Cult of the Lamb as well, Ben. And if I can get Twitch integration to work on that as well, you guys can join the cult. You guys can be our cult members when we play Cult of the Lamb. I'm sure some of you would like to get on their knees for me. After that co-op, I don't know. Pause. You heard me. That would be great. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do Cult of the Lamb. That's another one we could definitely do. I'm definitely down. Because I really want to play that. Cuphead, yeah, Cuphead would be fun as well. Cuphead would be amazing to play as well. I mean, Ben, like, our friend group playing stuff like Repo or Lethal would also be fucking hilarious. Like, getting you, Harry, everybody else in there, you know. That would be fucking hilarious on, like, Repo or Lethal or... We gotta do fucking Phasmo again. Now that we actually can talk to the ghost in-game, like, with the local voice chat and shit on console. We should definitely do Phasmo. Especially because I could actually play Phasmo on PC now as well. Alright, Crystal, enjoy your Genshin. We're gonna be starting with the book here soon. Like, I could play Phasmo from PC now, and it's crossplay, so that would be fucking hilarious. Yeah, Angel, it is. It's pretty good though. I like it. But when I still had the weird ass RAM issue my PC had, I could not play Phasmo on PC. It would make my PC freeze and crash because it would just overload my RAM. Demonologist is so scary. Yeah, it is. Yeah, since it like used it tried to use more RAM than I had, it like basically completely just froze my PC and crashed. But now that that RAM issue is fixed, it actually runs really well on my PC, surprisingly. So I could play it. Have you seen the new game? That like drug dealer one or whatever it's called? I forgot the name as well, like Schedule? I think Scheduled 1 or something. I've seen it. I haven't seen it, like I've heard of it, but I haven't seen any gameplay of it yet. But that one also looks really fun to do for sure. I just have a bunch of my people that I follow right now that are playing Repo. Oh shit! You know, yo, Ben, you know what's going on right now as well? Fuck. You get going? Yo, no worries, Angel. Have a good rest of your day. Oh, man. We missed it again this year. Yeah, the hunt is going on. It's Borderlands 2 this time again. Okay. Damn. To be fair, Borderlands 2 is by far, I feel like, the best one for the hunt. Borderlands 3 drop chances were too high. Wonderlands is kind of meh. Pre-sequel doesn't, I don't think has a lot of uniques like that, so Borderlands 2 is like a really good one. Yeah, and then the Borderlands, the Guns, Love, and Tentacles DLC, you're right. But yeah, I mean, God, I totally forgot about that. We should definitely participate in it again at some point. Maybe when Borderlands 4 comes out and they're doing like next year, like a Borderlands 4 hunt. That would be fun. Because I mean, Borderlands 4, I'm still kind of about it. Borderlands 1, yeah, I never finished it. We could definitely play that as well. I'm totally down. You know, not finished. Yeah, same. Borderlands 1 is the only one I haven't finished. I forgot. Did we get the platinum on pre-sequel? I don't think we did. Not yet. Yeah. And we're missing the, and then I have the platinum for 2, 3, and Wonderlands. But I've never finished 1, so I would definitely be down to do a playthrough of 1 at some point. The little bit I've played of it with some friends, definitely, I can say it's definitely more jank. It is definitely jankier. Not involved with the 3 platinum. Fuck yeah, get it. The 3 platinum wasn't too bad. What the fuck was that sound outside? What the hell? Hold on, serves my soul. Yeah, no. Agreed. Absolutely. The platinum for that was fucking grind as hell. Least favorite Borderlands game? Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed the first playthrough and the story of it. It was fine. It was a fun concept. But it didn't have the longevity and the replayability that like 2 and 3 had for me. Which is sad, because it's actually like the franchise itself I really like, but the recent games have all just kind of been meh. Like I also haven't heard any good things, like many good things about new Tales from the Borderlands. So like we'll see how Borderlands 4 will go. But like Gearbox definitely has to make that a good one. Otherwise, I feel like people might stop. Like Borderlands might be in a bad spot at that point. Two is still the best. I agree. 2 was my favorite. You know, the crazy thing is, Ben, I checked the other day, like we've played through 2 so many times as well. We've done so much on 2. We've done like a good amount of farming and everything. And like the amount of hours we put on 2 together there, I even have like 300 hours on the PC version of 2. And I don't even own any of the story DLC or any of the DLC. Like, I can only go to level 50. There's no ultimate Vault Hunter mode, no level 72, no level 80 that I have unlocked or anything. I have none of the DLCs, none of the DLC character, nothing. Just the base game, and I have like 300 hours on it. Like, true Vault Hunter mode, and yeah, we never did the Hammerlock DLC. But like True Vault Hunter mode with Terramorphous is like the hardest thing you can do in base game. And I played that back then when like the B conference call was like crazy busted. All right. Yeah, definitely 2 is my favorite. And then I would say 3 because of the quality of life stuff and the DLC, then pre-sequel, then Wonderlands. Because as bad as the story was, like the main story of 3, the DLC were alright, and the quality of life and the gameplay was really fun. I can't rate 1 because I haven't played 1. But this is a good DLC. Yeah, the DLC were a lot of fun. Even Ava's murder mystery, Ben. To be fair, that actually gave us some crazy weapons and gear. Like the fucking Revolter shield is broken OP. And then there was like another gun that people are like a pistol that people are using as well. Okay. But the Revolter, Western one was really fun. Yeah, Blood Money or whatever it's called. That was really good. I did enjoy Guns, Love, and Tentacles as well. I think the Handsome Jackpot one was okay. And the Fuster Cluck was alright. Like the Krieg one was okay, it was alright. The Jackpot, like the casino one was okay. The Hammerlock and the Western one were really good. Arms Race is a really fun game mode, yeah. Arms Race was fun to do for a while. Apart from trying to farm the new class mods that they added with it, especially for the hunt. I remember so many content creators during that year, like their last drops they needed were just the fucking class mods you get from Arms Race. It was crazy to see, like everybody trying to get those fucking class mods. All the different big Borderlands creators and speedrunners that just like went super hard on the challenge. Like I'm proud of myself for getting rank 150 in that. And I was really happy to be part of it, especially because it was for a good cause of raising money for charity as well, while just enjoying Borderlands. But yeah, the people that actually tried to complete everything and the entire list, God, they suffered in Arms Race. I've seen like people grinding for days in there. It was crazy. All right. Let's start with the book for today, with chapter 31, Wyland's Perspective. What am I doing here? Wyland bent to the basin and splashed cold water on his face. In just a few hours, the auction would begin. They would abandon the hotel suite before dawn. It was imperative that if anyone came looking for Johannes Rietveld after the auction, they would find him long gone. He took a final glance in the bathroom's gilded mirror. The face gazing back at him was familiar again. But who was he really? A criminal? A runaway? A kid who was passable, maybe more than passable, at demo? I'm Maria Hendricks' son. He thought of his mother, alone, abandoned along with her defective child. Had she not been young enough to produce a proper heir? Had his father known even then that he would want to forever rid himself of any evidence that Wyland had existed? What am I doing here? But he knew the answer. Only he could see his father punished for what he'd done. Only he could see his mother freed. Wyland examined himself in the glass. His father's eyes, his mother's curls. It had felt good to be someone else for a while, to forget that he was a Vanek. But he didn't want to hide anymore. Ever since Pryor's fingers had closed over his throat, he'd been running. Or maybe had started long before then. In the afternoons, he'd spend sitting in a pantry or curled into a window seat behind a curtain, hoping everyone would forget him. That the nanny would just go home. That his tutor would never arrive. His father had wanted Wyland to vanish. He'd wanted him to disappear the way he'd made Wyland's mother disappear. And for a long time, Wyland had wanted the exact same thing. That had all started to change when he came to the Barrel, when he got his first job, when he met Jesper and Kaz and Inej, when he'd begun to realize he was worth something. Jan Vanek was not going to get his wish. Wyland wasn't going anywhere. I'm here for her, he said to the mirror. The rosy-cheeked boy in the glass did not look impressed. My nose. The sun had just started to rise as Pim led Wyland and Colm on the back of the hotel and through the series of confusing turns to the square that fronted the exchange. Ordinarily, the bakery on Berstraat would have been open at this hour, preparing to serve the traders and merchants on their way to the exchange. But the auction had upended ordinary business, and the baker had closed his shop, maybe hoping to secure a seat to watch the proceedings for himself. They stood at the door on the deserted square for an excruciatingly long moment as Pim fumbled with the lock. Wyland realized he'd gotten used to the dexterity with which Kaz managed breaking and entering. The door opened with a too loud jingle, and then they were inside. No mourners, said Pim. He vanished back through the door before Wyland could reply. The bakery cases were empty, but the smell of bread and sugar lingered. Wyland and Colm settled themselves on the floor with their backs against the shelves, trying to make themselves comfortable. Kaz had left them with strict instructions, and Wyland had no interest in disregarding them. Johannes Rietveld could never be seen in the city again, and Wyland knew exactly what his father would do to him if he found out his son roaming the if he found his son roaming the streets of Caradham. They sat in silence for hours. Colm dozed. Wylan hummed to himself, a tune that he'd had in his head for a while. It would need percussion, something like a rat-tat-tat-tat, like a gunfire. He took a cautious peek through the window and saw a few people headed toward the church of Barter. Starlings taking flight in the square. And there, only a few 100 yards away, the entrance to the exchange. He didn't need to be able to read the words engraved over the arch. He'd heard his father repeat them countless times. Engent, Forhend, Alment. Industry, integrity, prosperity. Jan van Eyck had managed 2 out of 3 well enough. Wylan didn't realize Colm was awake until he said, "What made you lie for my son that day in the tomb?" Wylan lowered himself back down to the floor. He chose his words carefully. "I guess I know what it's like to get things wrong." Colm sighed. Jesper gets a lot wrong. He's reckless and foolish and apt to joke when it's not warranted. But Wylan waited. What I'm trying to say is, he's a lot of trouble. A whole lot. But he's worth it. And it's my fault he is that way, the way he is. I was trying to protect him. But maybe I saddled him with something worse than all the dangers I saw lurking out there. Even in the weak morning light trickling through the bakery's window, Wylan could see how weary Colm looked. I made some big mistakes. Wylan drew a line on the floor with his finger. You gave him someone to run to. No matter what he did or what went wrong, I think that's bigger than the mistake. See now, that's why he likes you. I know. It's none of my business, and I have no idea if he'd be good for you. Probably bring you 10 kinds of headache. But I think you'd be good for him. Wylan's face heated. He knew how much Colm loved Jesper, had seen it in every gesture he'd made. It meant something that he thought Wylan was good enough for his son. A sound came from near the delivery entrance, and they both stilled. Wylan rose, heart pounding. Remember, he whispered to Colm. Stay hidden. He made his way past the ovens to the back of the bakery. The smells were stronger here, the darkness more complete, but the room was empty, a false alarm. It's not. The delivery door flew open. Hands grabbed Wylan from behind. His head was yanked back, his mouth forced open as a rag was stuffed inside. A bag was shoved over his head. Hey, little Murch, said a deep voice he didn't recognize. Ready to be reunited with your daddy? They wrenched his arms back and dragged him to the delivery door of the bakery. Wylan stumbled, barely able to keep his footing, unable to see or get his bearings. He fell, his knees banging painfully against the cobblestones, and he was yanked back up. Don't make me carry you, little Murch. Not getting paid for that. This way, said one of the others, a girl. Peck us on the southern side of the cathedral. Hold, said a new voice. Who do you have there? His tone was officious. Stopwatch, Wylan thought. Someone Councilman van Eyck is going to be very happy to see. Is he from Casbecker's crew? Just run along like a good grunt and tell him the Dime Lions have a present waiting for him in the armaments chapel. Wylan heard crowds a little way off, where they near the church. A moment later, he was pulled roughly forward and the sounds changed. They were inside. The air was cooler, the light dimmer. He was dragged up another set of stairs, his shins banging against their edges, and then shoved into a chair, his hands bound behind his back. He heard footsteps coming up the stairs, the sound of a door opening. "We got him," said the same deep voice. "Where?" Wyland's heart stuttered. "Sound it out, Wyland. A child half your age can read this without trying." He thought he was ready for this. Breck had him stashed in a bakery just a few blocks away. "How did you find him?" Becca said, searching the area. Figured Brecker might try to pull some stunt at the auction. "No doubt intending to humiliate me," said Vanek. Jan Vanek. The back was yanked from Wyland's head and he looked into his father's face. Vanek shook his head. "Every time I think you cannot disappoint me further, you prove me wrong." They were in a small chapel topped by a dome. The oil paintings on the wall featured battle scenes and piles of armaments. The chapel must have been donated by a family of weapon manufacturers. Over the last few days, Wyland had studied the layout of the Church of Barter, mapping the rooftop niches and alcoves with Inesh, sketching the cathedral and long finger naves of Gezen's hand. He knew exactly where he was. One of the chapels at the end of Gezen's pinky. The floor was carpeted, the only door led to a stairway, and the only windows opened on the roof. Even if he wasn't gagged, he doubted anyone but the paintings would be able to hear him cry for help. Two people stood behind Vanek. A girl in striped trousers. The yellow hair shaved from half of her head, and a stout boy in plaid and suspenders. Both wore purple armbands indicating they'd been deputized by the Stadtwatch. Both bore the Dime Lion tattoo. The boy grinned. "You want me to go get Pekka?" he asked Vanek. "No need. I want him keeping his eyes on the preparations for the auction. This is something I'd prefer to handle myself." Vanek leaned down. "Listen, boy. The Wraith was spotted with a member of the Grisha Triumvirate. I know Brecker is working with the Rafkans. For all your many shortcomings, you still carry my blood. Tell me what he has planned and I'll see you're taken care of. You'll have an allowance. You can live somewhere in comfort. I'm going to remove your gag. If you scream, I'll let Pekka's friends do whatever they like to you. Understood?" Wyland nodded. His father tugged the rag from his mouth. Wyland ran his tongue over his lips and spat in his father's face. Vanek drew a snowy, monogrammed handkerchief from his pocket. It was embroidered with a red laurel. An apt retort for a boy who can barely form words. He wiped the saliva from his face. "Let's try this again. Tell me what Brecker is planning with the Rafkans and I may let you live." "The way you let my mother live?" His father's flinch was barely perceptible, a marionette yanked once by its strings, then allowed to return to rest. Vanek folded his soiled handkerchiefs twice and tucked it away. He nodded to the boy and the girl. "Do whatever you have to. The auction starts in less than an hour, and I want answers before then." "Hold him up," the stout boy said to the girl. She hauled Wyland to his feet, and the boy slipped a pair of brass knuckles from his pocket. "He's not going to be so pretty after this." "Who's there to care?" Vanek said with a shrug. "Just make sure you keep him conscious. I want information." The boy eyed Wyland skeptically. You sure you want to do this way, little Murch? Wyland summoned every bit of bravado he'd learned from Nina, the will he'd learned from Matthias, the focus he'd studied in Kaz, and the courage he'd learned from Inesh, and the wild, reckless hope he'd learned from Jesper, the belief that no matter the odds, somehow they would win. I won't talk, he said. The first punch shattered 2 of his ribs. The second had him coughing blood. Maybe we should snap your fingers so you can't play that infernal flute, Vanek suggested. I'm here for her, Wyland reminded himself. I'm here for her. In the end, it was not Nina or Matthias, or Kaz or Inesh or Jesper. He was just Wyland Vanek. And he told them everything. What the fuck? And that's the end of chapter 31. Nah, that's crazy. That is crazy. What the fuck? Okay. Well, now we're on to chapter 32. Inej. Getting into the Church of Bata was no easy task this morning. Due to its position near the exchange and the burst canal, its roof didn't conjoin any others, and its entrances were already surrounded by guards when Inej arrived. But she was the Wraith. She was made to find the hidden places, the corners and cracks where no one thought to look. No weapons would be allowed inside the Church of Bata during the auction, so Jesper's rifle was secured to her back. She waited out of sight until she spotted a group of stopwatch grunts rolling a cart full of lumber toward the church's huge double doors. Inej assumed they were the markings of some kind of barricade for the stage or the finger knaves. She waited until the cart had rolled to a stop, then tucked her hood into her tunic so it would not trail on the ground and slip beneath the cart. She latched herself onto the axle, her body bare inches above the cobblestones, and then let them wheel her directly down the center aisle. Before they reached the altar, she dropped and rolled between the pews, narrowly missing the cart's wheels. The floor was cold stone under her belly as she crawled the width of the church, and then waited at the end of the aisle and darted behind one of the columns of the western arcade. She moved from column to column and then slipped into the nave that would lead her to the thumb chapels. Once more, she dropped into a crawl so that she could use the pews in the nave as cover. She didn't know where the guards might be patrolling, and she had no desire to be caught simply wandering the church. She reached the first chapel and then climbed the stairs to the orange chapel above. Its altar was rendered in gold, but built to resemble the crates of oranges and other exotic fruits. It framed the Capel oil. It showed a family of merchants dressed in black, cradled in Gazen's hand, hovering over a citrus grove. She scaled the altar and launched herself up to the chapel's dome, clinging to it so she was hanging nearly upside down. Once she reached the center of the cupola, she wedged her back against the little dome that crowned the larger dome like a hat. Though she doubted she could be heard here, she waited until the sounds of sawing and hammering at the in the cathedral began. Then positioned her foot in front of one of the slender glass windows that gave light to the chapel and kicked. On the second attempt, the glass fractured, spilling outward. Ines covered her hand with her sleeve to clear away the excess shards and edged out onto the top of the dome. She latched a climbing line to the window and rappelled down the dome's side to the roof of the nave, where she left Jesper's rifle. She didn't want it throwing off her balance. She was atop Gazen's thumb. The morning mist had started to burn away, and she could feel the day would be a hot one. She followed the thumb back to the steeply gabled spires of the main cathedral and began to climb once more. This was the highest part of the church, but the terrain was familiar, and that made for easier going. Of all the rooftops in Caterham, the cathedral was Inesh's favorite. She'd had no good reason to learn its contours. There were plenty of other places for which she could have observed the exchange of Burst Canal when a job called for it. But she'd always chosen the Church of Bata. Its spires were visible from almost anywhere in Caterham. The copper of its rooftop long since turned to green and crisscrossed by spines of metal scrollwork, full of perfect handholds and offering plenty of cover. It was like a strange gray-green fairyland that no one else in the city ever got to see. The wire walker in her had imagined running a line between its tallest spires. Who would dare to defy death itself? I will. The Kirch would probably consider staging acrobatics atop the cathedral blasphemous, unless, of course, she charged admission. She planted the explosives Cass had described as their insurance in the locations she and Wylan had agreed upon while mapping the cathedral. Only in Cass's mind could chaos count for security. The bombs were meant to be noisy, but would do little damage. Still, if something went wrong and a distraction was needed, they would be there. When she was done, she took up her perch in one of the metalwork pockets that overlooked the apse and the vast nave of the cathedral. Here, her view of the proceedings would be obstructed by nothing but a series of white slats and a mesh screen between them. There were times she came here just to listen to the music from the organ or to hear voices raised in song. High above the city courts from the pipe organ echoing through the stone, she felt closer to her saints. The acoustics were good enough that she could have listened to every word of the sermons if she'd wanted to, but she chose to ignore those parts of the service. Gazen was not her god. She had no desire to be lectured on how she might be better serve him. She wasn't fond of Gazen's altar either, a graceless, flat lump of rock around which the church had been built. Some called it the first forge, others the mortar, but today it would be used as an auction block. It made Inesh's stomach turn. She was supposedly an indenture, brought to Kirch on her own free will. That was what the documents said. They didn't tell the story of her abduction, her terror in the belly of a slaver ship, the humiliation she'd suffered at Tante Helene's hands, or the misery of her existence at the menagerie. Kirch had been built on trade, but how much of that trade had been the humankind? A minister of Gazen might stand at that altar and rail against slavery, but how much of this city had been built on taxes from the pleasure houses? How many members of his congregation employed boys and girls who could barely speak Kirch, who scrubbed floors and folded laundry for pennies as they worked to pay off a debt that never seemed to grow smaller? If Inesh got her money, if she got her ship, she might do her part to change all of that. If she survived this day, she imagined all of them. Kaz, Nina, Matthias, Jesper, Wylan, Kuwei, would had so little say in the course of his own life, perched side by side on a wire, their balance precarious, their lives tethered together by hope and belief in one another. Pekka would be prowling the church below, and she suspected Dunyasha would be close by. She'd called the Ivory and Ember girl her shadow, but maybe she was a sign as well. A reminder that Inej hadn't been made for this life. And yet, it was hard not to feel that this city was her home, that Dunyasha was the intruder here. Now Inej watched the guards doing their last sweep of the church's ground floor, searching the corners and chapels. She knew they might send a few brave officers up to the roof to search, but there were plenty of places to hide, and if need be, she could simply slip back into the dome and the thumb chapel to wait them out. The guards set up their posts, and Inej heard the captain giving orders from where the members of the Merchants' Council were to be seated on the stage. She spotted the university medic who had been brought in to verify Kuwei's health and saw a god wheel a podium into place where the auctioneer would stand. She felt a surge of irritation when she spotted a few dime lions walking the aisles with the guards. They puffed out their chests, enjoying their new authority, brandishing the purple stopwatch bands on their arms to one another and laughing. The real stopwatch didn't look pleased, and Inej could see at least 2 members of the Merchant Council observing the proceedings with a wary eye. Were they wondering if they'd gotten more than they'd bargained for, allowing a bunch of barrel thugs to be deputized? Vanek had started this dance with Rollins, but Inej doubted the king of the barrel would let him lead for long. Inej scanned the skyline all the way to the harbor and the black obelisk towers. Nina had been right about the Council of Tides. It seemed they preferred to stay cloistered in their watchtowers. Though since their identities were unknown, Inej supposed they could be sitting in the cathedral right now. She looked toward the barrel, hoping Nina was safe and had not been discovered, that the heavy stopwatch present at the church would mean easier passage on the streets. By afternoon, the pews started to fill with curious onlookers, tradesmen in rough spun, jollies and bruisers fresh from the staves and decked out in their best barrel flash. Flocks of black-clad merchants, some accompanied by their wives, their pale faces bobbing above their white lace collars, heads crowned by braids. The Fjardan diplomats came next. They wore silver and white and were bracketed by Driskelle in black uniforms, all gilded hair and golden skin. Their size alone was daunting. Inej assumed that Matthias must know of these men and boys. He would have served with them. What would it be like for him to see them again, now that he'd been branded a traitor? This many delegation followed, empty gun belts at their hips, forced to divest themselves of their weapons at the doors. They were just as tall as the Driskelle. Oh god. But leaner of build. Some bronze like her, others the same deep brown as Jesper. Some with heads shorn, others with hair in thick braids and coiled knots. And there, tucked between the last 2 rows of the Zemeni, Inej caught sight of Jesper. For once, he wasn't the tallest in a crowd, and with the collar of his waxed cotton duster turned up around his jaw and hat pulled low over his ears, he was nearly unrecognizable. Or so Inej hoped. When the Rafkans arrived, the buzz in the room rose to a roar. What did the crowd of tradespeople, merchants, and barrel rowdies make of this grand international showing? A man in a teal frock coat led the Rafkan delegation, surrounded by a swarm of Rafkan soldiers in pale blue military dress. This had to be the legendary Sturmhond. He was pure confidence, flanked by Zoya Nazialensky on one side and Genya Safin on the other. His stride easy and relaxed, as if he were taking a turn about one of his ships. Perhaps she should have met with the Rafkins when she'd had the chance? What might she learn in a month with Stormhunt's crew? The Fjordans rose, and Inesh thought a fight might break out as the Driskeller faced down the Rafkin soldiers. But 2 members of the Merchant Council rushed forward, backed by a troop of Statbach. Curtis neutral territory, one of the merchants reminded them, his voice high and nervous. We are here on matters of business, not of war. Anyone who violates the sanctity of the Church of Bata will not be allowed to bid, insisted the other, black sleeves flapping. Why does your weak king send a filthy pirate to do his bidding? Sneered the Fjordan ambassador, his words echoing across the cathedral. Privateer, corrected Sturmhund. I suppose he thought my good looks would give me an advantage. Not a concern where you're from, I take it. Preening, ridiculous peacock. You stink of Grisha foulness. Sturmhund sniffed the air. I'm amazed you could detect anything over the reek of ice and inbreeding. The ambassador turned purple, and one of his companions hastily drew him away. Inesh rolled her eyes. They were worse than a couple of barrel bosses facing off on the staves. Bristling and grumbling, the Fjordans and Rafkins took their seats on opposite sides of the aisle, and the Kalish delegation entered with little fanfare. But seconds later, everyone was on their feet again when someone shouted, "The shoe!" All eyes turned to the huge doors of the cathedral as the shoe flowed inside. A tide of red banners marked with the horses and keys, their olive uniforms embellished with gold. Their expressions were stony as they marched up the aisle, and then stopped as the shoe ambassador argued angrily that his delegation should be seated in front of the room and that they were giving the Rafkins and Fjordans precedence by placing them closer to the stage. With a Kergud among them, Inesh glanced up at the pale spring sky, and she did not like the idea of being plucked from her roost by a winged soldier. Eventually, Vanek strode down the aisle from wherever he'd been lurking by the stage and snapped, "If you wish to be seated in the front, you should have foregone the drama of a grand entrance and gotten here on time." The shoe and the Kurt went back and forth for a little while, and at last, the shoes settled in their seats. The rest of the crowd was crackling with murmurs and speculative glances. Most of them didn't know what Kue was worth or had only heard rumors of the drug known as Yura Parem. So they were left to wonder why a shoe boy had drawn such bidders to the table. The few merchants who had seated themselves in the front pews with the intention of placing a bid were exchanging shrugs and shaking their heads in bafflement. Clearly, this was no game for casual players. The church bells rang. The church bells began to chime 3 bells, just behind those from the Geldrena clock tower. A hush fell. The merchant council gathered on the stage, and then Inesh saw every head in the room turn. The great double doors of the church opened, and Kue Yulbo entered, flanked by Kaz and Matthias and an armed Statwatch escort. Matthias wore simple tradesman's clothes, but managed to look like a soldier on parade nevertheless. With his black eye and split lip, Kaz looked even less reputable than usual, despite the sharp lines of his black suit. The shouting began immediately. It was hard to know who was causing the loudest uproar. The most wanted criminals in the city were striding down the center of the aisle of the Church of Barter. At the first glimpse of Cass, the dime lions stationed throughout the cathedral started booing. Matthias had instantly been recognized by his Druskele brethren, who were yelling what Inesh presumed were insults at him in Fjordan. The sanctity of the auction would protect Kaz and Matthias, but only until the final gavel fell. Even so, neither of them seemed remotely concerned. They walked with backs straight and eyes forward, Kuwei safely wedged between them. Kuwei was faring less well. The Shu were screaming the same word again and again. Xieyao, Xieyao, and whatever it meant, with every shout, Kuwei seemed to curl further in on himself. The city auctioneer approached the raised dais and took his place at the podium next to the altar. It was Yelen Retmaka, one of the investors they had invited to Jesper's absurd presentation on oil futures. From the investigation she'd done for Kaz, Inesh knew that it was he was scrupulously honest. A devout man with no family except an equally pious sister who spent her days scrubbing the floors of public buildings in service to Gazen. He was pale, with tufty orange brows and a hunched posture that gave him the look of a giant shrimp. Inesh scanned the undulating spires of the cathedral, the rooftops of the finger naves radiating from Gazen's palm. Still, no patrol on the roof. It was almost insulting, but maybe Pekka Rollins and Jan Vanek had something else planned for her. Ratmaka brought his gavel down in 3 furious swings. "There will be order," he bellowed. The clamor in the room dulled to a discontent murmur. Kuwei, Kaz, and Matthias climbed the stage and took their places by the podium. Kaz and Matthias partially blocking the still shaking Kuwei from view. Ratmaka waited for absolute quiet. Only then did he begin to recite the rules of the auction, followed by the terms of Kuwei's proffered indenture. Inesh glanced at Vanek. What was it like for him to be so close to the prize he'd sought for so long? His expression was smug, eager. He's already calculating his next move, Inesh realized. As long as Rafka did not have the winning bid. How could they? With their war chest badly depleted, Vanek would get his wish. The secret of Yoda Parem unleashed upon the world. The price of Yoda would rise to unimaginable heights. And between his secret private building holdings and his investments in the Yoda consortium run by Johannes Rietveld, he would be rich beyond all dreaming. Ratmaka waved forward a medic from the university, a man with a shiny bald pate. He took Kuwei's pulse, measured his height, listened to his lungs, examined his tongue and teeth. It was a bizarre spectacle, uncomfortably close to Inesh's memory of being prodded and poked by Tante Helene on the deck of a slaver ship. The medic finished and closed up his back. "Please make your declaration," said Ratmaka. "The boy's health is sound." Ratmaka turned to Kuwei. "Do you freely consent to abide by the rules of this auction and its outcome?" If Kuwei replied, Inesh couldn't hear it. "Speak up, boy." Kuwei tried again. "I do." "Then let us proceed." The medic stepped down and Ratmaka lifted his gavel once more. "Kuwei Yulbo freely gives his consent to these proceedings and hereby offers his service for a fair price as guided by Gazen's hand. All bids will be made in Kruger. Bidders are instructed to keep silence when not making offers. Any interference in this auction, any bid made in less than good faith, will be punished to the fullest extent of Kirch law. The bidding will start at 1 million Kruger." He paused. "In Gazen's name, let the auction commence." And then it was happening. A clamor of numbers Ines could barely track, the bids climbing as Ratmaka jabbed his gavel at each bidder, repeating the offer in staccato bursts. 5 million Kruger, the shoe ambassador shouted. 5 million, repeated Ratmaka. Do I have 6? 6, the Fjordan countered. Ratmaka's bark ricocheted off the cathedral walls like gunfire. Stormhunt waited, letting the Fjordans and Shu bet numbers back and forth. There's a many delegate, occasionally upping the price in more cautious increments, trying to slow the bidding's momentum. The Kalish sat quietly in their pews, observing the proceedings. Ines wondered how much they knew, and if they were unwilling or simply unable to bid. People were standing now, unable to keep to their seats. It was a warm day, but the activity in the cathedral seemed to have driven the temperature even higher. Ines would see people fanning themselves, and even members of the merchant council gathered like a jury of magpies had begun to dab with their brows. When the bidding hit 40 million Kruger, Sturmhorn finally raised his hand. 50 million Kruger, he said. The church of Barter fell silent. Even Ratmaka paused, his cool demeanor shaken before he repeated, 50 million Kruger from the Rafgan delegation. The members of the merchant council were whispering to one another behind their palms, no doubt thrilled at the commission they were about to earn of Kuwei's prize. Do I hear another offer? Ratmaka asked. The Shu were conferring. Fjordans were doing the same, though they seemed to be arguing more than discussing. The many appeared to be waiting to see what would happen. 60 million Kruger, the Shu declared. There we go. A counter raise of 10 million, just as Cass had anticipated. The Fjordans offered next at 60,200,000. You could see it cost their pride something to move in such a small increment, but the Zemeni seemed eager to cool down the bidding too. They bid at 60,500,000. The rhythm of the auction changed, climbing at a slower pace, hovering below 62 million until at last that milestone was reached, and the Shu seemed to grow impatient. 70 million Kruger, said the Shu ambassador. 80 million, shouted Sturmhund. 90 million. The Shu weren't bothering to wait for Ratmaka now. Even from her perch, Ines could see Kuwei's pale, panic-stricken face. The numbers had gone too high too fast. 91 million, Sturmhund said in a belated attempt to slow the pace. As if he'd grown tired of the game, the Shu ambassador stepped forward and said, 110 million Kruger. 110 million Kruger for the Shu delegation, cried Ratmaka, his calm obliterated by the sum. Do I hear another offer? The church of Barter was silent, as if all of those assembled had bent their heads in prayer. Sturmhund gave a jagged-edged laugh and shrugged. 120 million Kruger. Ines bit her lips so hard she drew blood. Boom! The massive double doors blew open. A wave of seawater crashed into the nave, frothing between the pews, and then vanishing in a cloud of mist. The crowd's excited chatter turned to startled cries. 15 figures cloaked in blue filed inside, their robes billowing as if captured by an invisible wind, their faces obscured by mist. People were calling for their weapons. Some were clutching one another and screaming. And Ines saw a Mercher hunched over, frantically fanning his unconscious wife. The figures glided up the aisle, their garments moving in slow ripples. We are the Council of Tides, said the blue-cloaked figure in the lead. A female voice, low and commanding. The mist shrouded her face completely, shifting beneath her hood in a continuously changing mask. This auction is a sham. Shocked murmurs rose from the crowd. Inesh heard Ratmaka call for order, and then she was dodging left, moving on instinct as she heard a soft whoosh. A tiny circular blade cut past her, slicing the sleeve of her tunic and pinging off the copper roof. That was a warning, said Dunyasha. She perched on the scrollwork of one of the spires 30 feet from Inesh, her ivory hood raised around her face, bright as new snow beneath this afternoon sun. I will look you in the eye when I send you to your death. Inesh reached for her knives. Her shadow demanded an answer. And that's the end of that chapter and the end of part 5. I think we are entering. Yep, we are entering the final part of the book, guys. Part 6. Yep. This is the last part of the book. Part 6. Action and Echo. Oh boy. And we're going into Matthias's perspective first. Matthias held his body quiet, taking in the chaos that had erupted over the church of Barter. He was keenly aware of the council members seated behind him, a flock of black-suited ravens squawking at one another, each louder than the next. All but Vanek, who had settled deeply into his chair, his fingers tented before him, a look of supreme satisfaction on his face. Matthias could see the man called Pekka Rollins leaning on a column in the eastern arcade. He suspected that the gang boss had deliberately positioned himself in Kaza's line of vision. Ratmaka demanded order, his voice rising, the tufts of his pale orange hair quivering with every bang of his gavel. It was hard to tell what had riled up the room more, the possibility that the auction was fixed, or the appearance of the Council of Tides. Cass claimed that no one knew the identities of the Tides, and if Dirty Hands and the Wraith could not suss out such a secret, then no one could. Apparently, they had last appeared in public 25 years before the protest that proposed destruction of one of the obelisk towers to create a new shipyard. When a vote had not gone in their favor, they had sent a huge wave to crush the Stadthall. The council had reversed themselves, and the new Stadthall had been erected on the old site, one with fewer windows and a stronger foundation. Matthias wondered if he could ever grow used to such stories of Grisha power. It's just another weapon. Its nature depends on who wields it. He would have to keep reminding himself. The thoughts of hatred were so old they had become instincts. That was not something he could cure overnight. Like Nina with Parem, it might be a lifelong fight. By now, she would be deep into her assignment in the barrel, or she might have been discovered and arrested. He sent up a prayer to Djel. Keep her safe while I cannot. His eyes strayed to the Fjordan delegation gathered in the front pews and the Diskella there. He knew many of them by name, and they certainly knew him. He could feel the sharp edge of their disgust. One boy glared at him from the first row, quivering with fury, eyes like glaciers, hair so blonde it was nearly white. What wounds had his commanders exploited to put that look in his eyes? Matthias held his gaze steadily, taking the brunt of his rage. He could not hate this boy. He'd been him. Eventually, the ice-haired boy looked away. The auction is sanctioned by law, shouted the Shu ambassador. You have no right to stop the proceedings. The tide makers raised their arms. Another wave crashed through the door and roared down the aisle, arcing over the heads of the Shu and hovering there. Silence, demanded the lead tide maker. She waited for another protest. None came. The wave curved backward and sloshed harmlessly to the floor. It slithered up the aisle like a silver snake. We have received word that these proceedings have been compromised. Matthias's eyes darted to Sturmhond. The privateer had schooled his features into mild surprise, but even from the stage, Matthias could sense his fear and worry. Hu-wei was trembling, eyes closed, whispering to himself in Shu. Matthias could not tell what Cass was thinking. He never could. The rules of the auction are clear. Neither the indenture nor his representatives are permitted to interfere with the auction's outcome. The market must decide. The members of the Merchant Council were on their feet now, demanding answers, gathering around Ratmaka at the front stage. Vanek made a great show of shouting along with the others, but he paused beside Cass and Matthias and heard him murmur, "You thought I would have to be the one to reveal your scheme with the Rafkins, but it seems the Tides will have the honor." His mouth curved into a satisfying smile. "Went into quite a beating before he gave you and your friends up," he said, moving toward the podium. "I never knew the boy had so much spine." "A false fund was created to swindle honest merchants out of their money," continued the tide makers. "That money was funneled to one of the bidders." "Of course," said Vanek in mock surprise. "The Rafkins! We all knew they didn't have the funds to bid competitively in such an auction." Matthias could hear how greatly he was enjoying himself. "We're aware of how much money the Rafkin crown has borrowed from us over the last 2 years. They can barely make their interest payments. They don't have 120 million Krugeb ready to bid in an open auction. Brekka must be working with them." All the bidders were out of their seats now. The Fjordans were shouting for justice. The Shu had begun stamping their feet and banging on the backs of the pews. The Rafkins stood in the middle of the maelstrom, surrounded by enemies on every side. Sturmhond, Genya, and Zoya were at the center of it all, chins held high. "Do something," Matthias growled at Cass. "This is about to turn ugly." Cass's face was impassive as always. "Do you think so?" "Damn it, Brecker, you..." The Tides raised their arms, and the church shook with another resonant boom. Water sloshed in through the windows of the upper balcony. The crowd quieted, but the silence was hardly complete. It seethed with angry murmurs. Ratmaka banged his gavel, attempting to reassert some authority. "If you have evidence about the Rafkins," the tide maker spoke from behind her mask of mist, "the Rafkins have nothing to do with this. The money was transferred to the Shu." Vanek blinked and then changed tact. "Well then, Brekka struck some kind of deal with the struck some deal with the Shu." Instantly, the Shu were shouting their denials, but the tide maker's voice was louder. "The False One Fund was created by Johannes Rietveld and Jan Vanek." Vanek's face went white. "No, that's not right." Rietveld is a farmer," stammered Karl Dryden. "I met him myself." The tide maker turned on Dryden. "Both you and Jan Vanek were seen meeting with Rietveld in the lobby of the Geldrenner Hotel." "Yes, but it was for a fund, a Yorda consortium, an honest business venture." Ratmacher, said Vanek. You were there. You met with Rietveld. Ratmacher's nostrils flared. I know nothing of this Mr. Rietveld. But I saw you. We saw you at the Geldrenner. I was there for a presentation on Zemeni oil futures. It was most peculiar. But what of it? No, said Vanek, shaking his head. If Rietveld is involved, Brekker is behind it. You must have hired Rietveld to swindle the council. Every one of us put money into that fund at your encouragement, said one of the councilmen. Are you saying it's all gone? We knew nothing of this, countered the Shu ambassador. This is Brekker's doing, insisted Vanek. His smug demeanor was gone and his composure remained intact. The boy will stop at nothing to humiliate me and the honest men of the city. He kidnapped my wife, my son. He gestured to Cass. Did I imagine you standing on Goatman Bridge in West State with Alice? Of course not. I retrieved her from the market square just as you asked. Cass lied with a smoothness even Matthias found convincing. He said she was blindfolded and never saw the people who took her. Nonsense, said Vanek dismissively. Alice, he shouted up to the western balcony where Alice was seated, hands folded over a high, pregnant belly. Tell them! Alice shook her head, her eyes wide and baffled. She whispered something to her maid, who called down. Her captors wore masks and she was blindfolded until she reached the square. Vanek released a huff of frustration. Well, my guards certainly saw him with Alice. Men in your employ? Said Ratmacher skeptically. Brekker was the one who set up the meeting at the bridge, said Vanek. He left a note at the lake house. Ah, said Ratmacher in relief. Can you produce it? Yes, but it wasn't signed. Then how do you know it was Cass Brekker who sent the note? He left a tie-pin. His tie-pin? No, my tie-pin, but... So you have no proof at all that Cass Brekker kidnapped your wife? Ratmacher's patience was at an end. Is the business with your missing son as flimsy? The whole city has been searching for him. Rewards have been offered. I pray your evidence is stronger on that account. My son. I'm right here, father. Every eye in the room turned to the archway by the stage. Wylan leaned against the wall. His face was bloodied and he looked barely able to stand. Gazen's hand, complained Vanek beneath his breath. Can no one do their jobs? Were you relying on Pekka men? Kaz mused in a low rasp. And are you sure they were Pekka's men? If you're not from the barrel, you might find it hard to tell lions from crows. One animal is the same as the next. Matthias couldn't help the surge of satisfaction he felt as he saw a realization strike Vanek. Cass had known there was no way to get Wylan into the church without Vanek or the Dime Lions finding out, so he'd staged the kidnapping. Two of the dregs, Annika and Cake, with their armbands and fake tattoos, had simply strolled up to the Stadtwald with the captive and told the men to fetch Vanek. When Vanek arrived in the chapel, what did he see? His son held captive by two gang members bearing the insignia of Pekka's Dime Lions. Matthias hadn't thought they'd rough Ryland up quite so badly, though. Maybe he should have pretended to break sooner. What a crazy plan! What the fuck? Nah, this was all planned from the beginning. I mean, with Kaz, I'm not surprised anymore, man. Holy shit. Help him, Ratmacher shouted to a Stadtwatch officer. Can't you see the boy is hurt? The officer went a while inside and helped him limp to a chair as the medic hurried forward to attend to him. Wyland van Eck, said Ratmacher, and Wyland nodded. The boy we've been tearing apart the city searching for? I got free as soon as I could. From Brecker? From Rollins. Pekka Rollins took you captive? Yes, said Wyland. Weeks ago. Stop your lies, hissed Van Eck. Tell them what you told me. Tell them about the Rafkans. Wyland lifted his head wearily. I'll say whatever you want, father. Just don't let them hurt me anymore. A gasp went up from the crowd. The members of the Merchant Council were looking at Van Eck with open disgust. Matthias had to stifle a snort. Has Nina been giving him lessons? He whispered. Maybe he's a natural. Brecker is the criminal, said Van Eck. Brecker's behind this. You all saw him at my house the other night. He broke into my office. That's true, said Karl Dryden eagerly. Of course we were there, said Cass. Van Eck invited us there to broker a deal for Kuei-Yobo's indenture. He told us we'd be meeting with the Merchant Council. Pekka Rollins was waiting to ambush us instead. You're saying he violated a good faith negotiation, said one of the councilmen. That seems unlikely. But we all saw Kuei-Yobo there too, said another, though we did not know who he was at the time. I've seen the poster offering a reward for a shoe boy matching Kuei's appearance, Kaz said. Who provided his description? Well, the merchant hesitated, and Matthias could see suspicion warring with his reluctance to believe the charges. He turned to Van Eck, and his voice was almost hopeful when he said, Surely you didn't know the shoe boy you described was Kuei-Yobo? Now Karl Dryden was shaking his head, less in denial than disbelief. It was also Van Eck who pushed us to join Rietvald's fund. You were just as eager, Van Eck protested. Well, I wanted to investigate the secret buyer purchasing Yoda farms in Novye Zem. You said, Dryden broke off, eyes wide, mouth hanging. It was you. You were the secret buyer. Finally, muttered Cass. You cannot possibly believe I would seek to swindle my own friends and neighbors, Van Eck pleaded. I invested my own money in that fund. I had as much to lose as the rest of you. Not if you made a deal with the shoe, said Dryden. Ratmacher banged once more, his gavel once more. Jan Van Eck, at the very least, you have squandered the resources of the city in pursuing unfounded accusations. At the worst, you have abused your position as a councilman, attempted to defraud your friends, and violated the integrity of this auction. He shook his head. The auction has been compromised. It cannot go until we have determined whether any member of the council knowingly channeled funds to one of the bidders. The shoe ambassador began yelling. Ratmacher banged his gavel. Then everything seemed to happen at once. 3 Fjordandraskella surged toward the stage, and the Stadtwatch rushed to block them. The shoe soldiers pushed forward. The tide makers raised their hands, and then, over all of it, like the keening cry of a woman in mourning, the plague siren began to wail. The church went silent. People paused, their heads up, ears attuned to the sound. A sound they had not heard in more than 7 years. Even in Hellgate, prisoners told stories of the Queen's Lady Plague, the last great wave of sickness to strike Catterdom. The quarantines, the sick boats, the dead piling up in the streets faster than the bodyman could collect them and burn them. "What is that?" asked Kuwei. The corner of Kaz's mouth curled. "That, Kuwei, is the sound that death makes when she comes calling." A moment later, the siren could not be heard at all over the screaming as people shoved toward the church's double doors. No one even noticed when the first shot was fired. The fuck? That's the end of chapter 33. I feel like that is Nina's work. That has to be Nina's work now. Now Nina is entering the scene. Especially because the next chapter is also Nina. So we'll see. The wheels spun, gold and green panels whirring so fast they became a single color. It slowed and stopped, and whatever number came up must have been a good one, because the people cheered. The floor of the gambling palace was uncomfortably warm, and Nina's scalp itched beneath her wig. It was an unflattering bell shape, and she'd paired it with a dowdy gown. For once, she didn't want to draw attention. She had passed unnoticed through her first stop on West Stave, and through her second. Then she'd crossed over to East Stave, doing her best to move unseen through the crowds. They were thinner due to the blockades, but people would not be kept from their pleasures. She'd made a visit to the gambling palace just a few blocks south of this one, and now her work was almost done. Kaz had chosen the establishment with care. This would be her fourth and final destination. As she smiled and wooed with the other players, she opened the glass case in her pocket and focused on the black cells within it. She could feel the deep cold radiating from it, that sense of something more, something other that spoke to the power inside her. She hesitated only briefly. Yeah, now I think we're going back now to like what Nina did before she now stormed in as well. She hesitated only briefly, recalling too clearly the chill of the morgue, the stink of death. She remembered standing over the dead man's body and focusing on the discolored skin around his mouth. And she'd once used her power to heal or rend skin, or even place a flush on someone's cheeks, she had concentrated on those decaying cells and funneled a slender sheath of necrotic flesh into the compressed glass case. She tucked the case into a black velvet pouch, and now, standing in this raucous crowd, watching the happy colors of the wheel spin, she felt its weight dangling from her wrist by a silver cord. She leaned in to place a bet with one hand. With one hand, she set her chips on the table. With the other, she opened the glass case. "Wish me luck," she said to the wheel broker, allowing the open bag to brush against his hand, sending those dying cells up his fingers, letting them multiply over his healthy skin. When he reached for the wheel, his fingers were black. "Your hand!" exclaimed the woman. "There's something on it." He scrubbed his fingers over his embroidered green coat as if it were simply ink or coal dust. Nina flexed her fingers, and the cells crawled up the broker's sleeve, up the collar of his shirt, bursting in a black stain over one side of his neck. curling under his jaw to his bottom lip. Someone screamed, and the players backed away from him as the broker looked around in confusion. Players at the tables turned from their cards and dice in irritation. The pit boss and his minions were moving toward them, ready to shut down whatever fight or problem was disrupting gameplay. Hidden by the crowd, Nina swept her arm through the air, and the cluster of the cells jumped to a woman beside the wheel broker wearing expensive-looking pearls. A black starburst appeared on her cheek, and an ugly little spider that rippled over her chin and over the column of her throat. "Elena!" her heavy-set companion shouted. "Your face!" Now the screams were spreading as Elena crawled at her neck, stumbling forward, searching out a mirror as the other customers scattered before her. "She touched the broker! I got her too! It got her too!" "What got her?" "Get out of my way!" "What's happening here?" What's happening here?" the pit boss demanded, clapping a hand on the baffled broker's shoulder. "Help me," the broker begged, holding up his hands. "There's something wrong." The pit boss took in the black stains on the broker's face and hands, backing away quickly, but it was too late. The hand had touched the broker's shoulder, turned an ugly purplish black, and now the pit boss was screaming too. Nina watched the terror take its own momentum, careening through the floor of the gambling hall like an angry drunk. Players knocked over their chairs, stumbling toward the doors, grabbing their chips even as they ran for their lives. Tables overturned, spilling cards and dice clattered to the floor. People raced for the doors, shoving one another out of the way. Nina went with them, letting herself be carried by the crowd as they fled the gambling hall and lurched into the street. It had been the same at every one of her stops, the slow bleed of fear that crested so suddenly of full-blown panic. Why is Nina so scary? Because she's fucking overpowered. I mean, she raised an army of the dead before. And now, last she heard it, the siren. Its undulating wail descended over the stave, rising and falling, echoing over the rooftops and cobblestones of Caterham. Tourists turned to one another with questions in their eyes, but the locals, the performers and dealers and shopkeepers and gamblers of the city, were instantly transformed. Casa told her they would know the sound, that they would heed it like children called home by a stern parent. Kerch was an island, isolated from its enemies, protected by the seas and its men's navy. But the two things its capital was most vulnerable to were fire and disease. And just as fire leapt easily between the tightly packed rooftops of the city, so plague passed effortlessly from body to body through the thick crowds and cramped living spaces. Like gossip, no one knew exactly where it began or how it moved so quickly, only that it did. Through breath or touch, carried on the air or through the canals. The rich suffered less, able to stay sequestered in their grand houses or gardens, or flee the city entirely. The infected poor were quarantined in makeshift hospitals and barges outside the harbor. The plague could not be stopped with guns or money. It could not be reasoned with or prayed away. Only the very young in Caterham didn't have a clear memory of the Queen's Lady Plague, of the sick boats moving through the canals piloted by bodymen with their long oars. Those who had survived it had lost a child or a parent, or a brother, or a sister, a friend, or a neighbor. They remembered the quarantines, the terror that came with even the most basic human contact. The laws addressing plague were simple and ironclad. When the siren sounded, all private citizens were to return to their homes. The officers of the Stadtwacht were to assemble at separate stations around the city in case of infection. In case of infection, this was a means of attempting to keep it from spreading to the entirety of the force. They were dispatched only to stop looters, and those men were given triple pay for the risk of policing the streets. Commerce halted, and only the sick boats, bodymen, and medics had free reign of the city. I know the one thing this city is more frightened of than the Shu, the Fjordans, and all the gangs of the Barrel together. Cass had gotten it right. The barricades, the blockades, the checks on people's papers, all of it would be abandoned in the face of the plague. Of course, none of these people were properly sick, thought Nina as she sped back through the harbor. The necrotic flesh would not spread beyond what Nina had grafted onto their bodies. They would have to have it removed, but no one would grow ill or die. At worst, they'd endure a few weeks of quarantine. Nina kept her head lowered, her hood up. Though she had been the cause of it all, and though she knew the plague was pure fiction, she still found her heart racing, carried into a gallop by the hysteria bubbling up around her. People were crying, shoving and shouting, arguing over space on the bro boats. It was chaos. Chaos of her making. I did this, she thought wonderingly. I commanded those corpses, those bits of bone, those dying cells. What did that make her? If any Grisha had ever had such a power, she'd never heard of it. What would the other Grisha think of her? Her fellow Corporal Key, the Heart Renders and Healers. We are tied to the power of creation itself, the making at the heart of the world. Maybe she would feel ashamed, maybe even frightened, but she hadn't been made for shame. Perhaps Gel extinguished one light and lit another. Nina didn't care if it was Gel or the Saints or a brigade of fire-breathing kittens. As she hurried east, she realized that, for the first time in ages, she felt strong. Her breath came easy, the ache in her muscles had dimmed. She was ravenous. The craving for Parem felt distant, like a memory of real hunger. Nina had grieved for her loss of power, for the connection she'd felt to the living world. She'd resented this shadow gift. It had seemed like a sham, a punishment. But just as surely as life connected everything, so did death. It was that endless, fast-running river. She dipped her fingers into its current, held the eddy of its power in her hand. She was the queen of mourning, and in its depths, she would never drown. Holy fuck! This book is insane! That was the end of chapter 34. Now, back to Inej, who's currently getting targeted by Dunyasha. So there's going to be a fight happening, I would assume. So let's see how that goes. I feel like Nina's not going to have a happy ending. I don't know. I feel like she's gonna learn to live with her new powers, to accept those new powers. But I don't know. But now we have the Inej and Dunyasha fight. So let's see how that goes. Inej saw the snap of Dunyasha's hand and heard a sound like a wing beat, then felt something bounce off her shoulder. She caught the silver star before it could fall off the roof. Inej had come prepared this time. Jesper had helped her sew some of the padding from one of the hotel suite's mattresses into her tunic and vest. Years on the farm, darning shirts and socks that made him surprisingly handy with a needle. And she was not going to play pincushion for the white blade again. Inej leapt forward, speeding toward her opponent, sure-footed on this roof she'd spent so many hours on. She hurled the star back at Dunyasha. The girl dodged it easily. My own blades would not betray me so, she chided, as if scolding a small child. But Inej hadn't needed to hit her, merely distract her. She flicked her hand as she was storing another blade, and as Dunyasha followed the movement, Inej rebounded off the metal spine to her right, letting the ricochet carry her past her opponent. She crouched low, knives in hand, and slashed open the mercenary's calf. Oh, Inej got a blow in already? Sheesh. Inej was up again in moments, bouncing backward over one of the scrollwork spines of the church, keeping her eyes on Dunyasha. But the girl just laughed. Your spirit brings me pleasure, Wraith. I can't remember the last time anyone drew first blood on me. Dunyasha leapt into a scrollwork spine, and now they faced each other, both with blades at the ready. The mercenary lunged deeply, slashing out, but this time Inej did not let herself follow the instincts she had fought so hard to learn on the streets of Caterham. Instead, she responded as an acrobat would. When the swing was coming at you, you didn't try to avoid it. You went to meet it. Inej ducked close into Dunyasha's reach, as if they were partners in a dance, using the motion of her opponent's attack to knock her off balance. Again, Inej struck out with her blade, slicing open the girl's other calf. This time, Dunyasha hissed. Better than a laugh, thought Inej. The mercenary whirled, a compact movement spinning on her toes like a dagger on its point. If she felt any pain, she did not show it. Her hands held two curved blades now. Moving in sinuous rhythm as she stalked Inej along the metal spine. Inej knew she could not move into these blades. To break the rhythm, she told herself. She let Dunyasha pursue her, giving up ground, skittering backward along the spine until she saw the shadow of a tall finial behind her. She feinted right, encouraging her opponent to lunge forward. EP today? Yeah, I haven't really slept much. How you doing though, always? Instead of checking the feint and keeping her balance, Inej continued to let herself fall to the right. In the same movement, she sheathed her blades and seized hold of the finial from with one hand, swinging her body around to the other side. Now, the finial was between them. Dunyasha grunted in frustration as her blades clanged against metal. Inej leapt from scroll to scroll, racing over the roof of the thickest of the metal spines. Following it up, the humped back of the cathedral. It was like walking on the fin of some great sea creature. Dunyasha followed, and Inej had respect that her movements were just as smooth and graceful with two bleeding calves. Are you going to run all the way back to the caravan, Wraith? You know it's only a matter of time before this ends and justice is done. Justice? You are a murderer and a thief. I was chosen to rid this world of people like you. A criminal may pay my wages, but I have never taken an innocent life. That word sounded a discordant note inside Inesh. Was she innocent? She regretted the lives she'd taken, but she would take them again to save her own life. The lives of her friends. She'd stolen. She'd helped Cass blackmail good men and bad. Could she say the choices she'd made were the only choices put before her? Dunyasha approached, the flame of her hair bright against the blue sky. Her skin nearly the same ivory as the fine clothes she wore. Somewhere far below their feet, the auction continued in the cathedral, its participants unaware of the battle being waged above. Here, the sun shone bright as a freshly minted coin. Wind rushed over the spines and spires of the rooftop in a low moan. Innocence. Innocence was a luxury, and Inesh did not believe her saints demanded it. She drew her knives once more. Sanct Vladimir, Sancta Alina, protect me. Dunyazad. They're charming, Dunyasha said, and pulled two long, straight blades from the sheaths at her waist. I will give my new knife a handle from your shin bone. It will be your honor to serve me in death. I will never serve you, said Inesh, and Dunyasha lunged. Inesh stayed closed, using every opportunity to keep inside the mercenary's guard and deny her the advantage of her longer reach. She was stronger than she'd been when they'd faced each other in the wire. Well rested and well fed, but she was still a girl trained on the streets, not in the towers of some Shu monastery. Inesh's first mistake was a slow recoil. She paid for it in a deep slash to her left bicep. It cut through the padding and made it hard to keep a good grip on the blade in her left hand. Her second error was putting too much force into an upward jab. She leaned in too far and felt Dunyasha's knife skim her ribs. A shallow cut that time, but it had been a close thing. She ignored the pain and focused on her opponent, remembering what Cass had told her. Find her tells. Everyone has them. But Dunyasha's movements seemed unpredictable. She was equally comfortable with her left and right hands. She favored neither foot and waited until the last moment to strike, giving no early indication of her intent. She was extraordinary. Growing weary, Wraith? Inesh said nothing, conserving her energy. Though Dunyasha's breathing seemed clear and even, Inesh could feel herself dragging slightly. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give the mercenary the advantage. Then she saw it, the slightest hitch of Dunyasha's chest, followed by a lunge. A hitch, then another lunge. The tell was in her breathing. She took in a deep breath before an attack. There! Inesh dodged left, struck quickly, a rapid jab of her blade into Dunyasha's side. There! Inesh attacked again, and blood flowered on Dunyasha's arm. Inesh drew back, waited as the girl advanced. The mercenary liked to hide her direct assaults with the movement, the whirl of her blades, an unnecessary flourish. It made her hard to read. There! The quick burst of breath. Inesh sank low and swept her leg wide, knocking the mercenary off balance. This was her chance. Inesh shot to her feet, using her upward momentum on Dunyasha's descent to shove her blade under the leather guard protecting the girl's sternum. Inesh felt blood on her hand as she wrenched the knife free, and Dunyasha released a shocked grunt. The girl stared at her now, clutching her chest with one hand. Her eyes narrowed. There was still no fear there, only a heart, bright resentment, as if Inesh had ruined an important party. The blood you spill is the blood of kings, seethed Dunyasha. You are not fit for such a gift. Inesh almost felt sorry for her. Dunyasha really believed she was the Lanza of air. Maybe she was. But wasn't that what every girl dreamed? Oh god. That she'd wake and find herself a princess, or blessed with magical powers and a grand destiny. Maybe there were people who lived those lives. Maybe this girl was one of them. But what about the rest of us? What about the nobodies and the nothings? The invisible girls? We learn to hold our heads as if we were crowns. We learn to wring magic from the ordinary. That was how you survived when you weren't chosen. When there was no royal blood in your veins. When the world owed you nothing, you demanded something of it anyway. Inesh raised a brow and slowly wiped the blood of kings on her trousers. Dunyasha snarled and laughed herself at Inesh, launched herself at Inesh, slashing and jabbing with one arm, the other pressed to her wound, trying to stanch the bleeding. She'd obviously been trained to fight with just one hand, but she's never had to fight with an injury, Inesh realized. Maybe the monks skipped that lesson. And now that she was wounded, her tell was even more obvious. They had neared the tip of the church's main spine. The scroll work was loose in places, and Inesh adjusted her footing accordingly, dodging in Dunyasha's onslaught easily now. Bobbing right and left, taking small victories, a cut here, a jab there. It was a war of attrition, and a mercenary was losing blood quickly. You're better than I thought, Dunyasha panted, surprising Inesh with the admission. Her eyes were dull with pain. The hand in her sternum was slick and red. Still, her posture was erect, her balance steady as they stood mere feet from each other, perched on the high metal spine. Thank you, Inesh said. The words felt false in her mouth. There is no shame in meeting a worthy opponent. It means there's more to learn. A welcome reminder to pursue humility. The girl lowered her head, sheathed her knife. She placed a fist over her heart in salute. And Inesh waited, guard up. Could the girl mean it? This wasn't the way you ended a fight in the barrel, but the mercenary clearly followed her own code. Inesh did not want to be forced to kill her, no matter how soulless she seemed. I have learned humility, Dunyasha said, head bowed. And now you will learn that some are meant to serve, and some are meant to rule. Dunyasha's face snapped up. She unfurled her palm and released a sharp gust of air. Inesh saw a cloud of red dust and recoiled from it, but it was too late. Her eyes were burning. What was it? It didn't matter. She was blind. She heard the sound of a blade being drawn and felt the slash of a knife. She bobbled backward along the spine, fighting to keep her footing. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to wipe the dust from her eyes. Dunyasha was nothing but a blurry shape in front of her. Inesh held her blade straight out, trying to create distance between them, and felt the mercenary's knife cut across her forearm. The blade slid from Inesh's fingers and clattered to the rooftop. Sancta Helena, protect me. But perhaps the saints had chosen Dunyasha as their vessel. Despite Inesh's prayers and penance, maybe judgment had come at last. I am not sorry, she realized. She had chosen to live freely as a killer rather than die quietly as a slave. And she could not regret that. She would go to her saints with a ready spirit and hope they would receive her. The next slice cut across her knuckles. Ines took another step backward, but she knew she was running out of room. Dunyasha was going to drive her right over the edge. I told you, Wraith, I am fearless. My blood flows with the strength of every queen and conqueror who came before me. Inesh's foot caught the edge of one of the metal scrolls, and then she understood. She didn't have her opponent's training or education or fine white clothes. She could never be as ruthless, and she could not wish to be. But she knew this city inside out. It was the source of her suffering and the proving ground for her strength. Like it or not, Catadom, brutal, dirty, hopeless Catadom, had become her home, and she would defend it. She knew its rooftops the way she knew the squeaky stairs of the slat, the way she knew the cobblestones of alleys of the stave. She knew every inch of this city like a map of her heart. The girl who knows no fear, Ines panted as the mercenary's shape wobbled before her. Dunyasha bowed. Goodbye, Wraith. Then learn fear now before you die. Ines stepped aside, balancing on one foot as Dunyasha's boot came down on a loose piece of scrollwork. If the mercenary had not been bleeding, she might have taken better heed of the terrain. If she had not been so eager, she might have righted herself. Instead, she slipped, tipped forward, and Ines saw Dunyasha through the blur of her tears. She hung for a moment, silhouetted against the sky, toes seeking purchase, arms outstretched with nothing to grasp. A dancer poised to leap, eyes wide and mouth open in surprise. Even now, at this last moment, she looked like a girl from a story destined for greatness. She was a queen without mercy, a figure carved in ivory and amber. Dunyasha fell silently, disciplined to the last. Ines peered cautiously over the side of the roof. Far below, people were screaming. The mercenary's body lay like a white blossom in a spreading field of red. May you make more than misery in your next life, Ines murmured. She needed to move. The sirens still hadn't sounded, but Ines knew she was late. Jesper would be waiting. She sprinted across the cathedral's rooftop, back over Gazen's thumb to the chapel. She grabbed the climbing line and Jesper's rifle from where she'd lodged it between two pieces of scrollwork. And as she scaled the dome and dug her head into the orange chapel, she could only pray she was not too late. But Jesper was nowhere to be found. Ines craned her neck, searching the empty chapel. She needed to locate Jesper. Kuwe Yulbo had to die tonight. What? What? So the whole plan is basically create all this chaos and fear and everything with the quote unquote plague like the fake plague and everything that's going on, so that Jesper and Ines on the rooftop have the opening to shoot Kuwe? What? Huh? What the fuck? That is insane. What? Well, we're going into chapter 36. Jesper's perspective, I guess. But what the fuck? How many chapters are there? We're like less than 100 pages, I would say. It's like 44 chapters, I think. 44 or 45. 45, okay. Holy shit. Give me a second though, real quick. What the fuck? Okay. Well, let's continue. Chapter 36 then. The Council of Tides had arrived in all their splendor, and Jesper couldn't help but be reminded of the Comédie Brute. What was this whole thing but a play Cass had staged with that poor sucker Kuwei as the star? Jesper thought of Wylan, who might finally see justice for his mother, of his own father waiting in a bakery. He was sorry for the fight they'd had. Though Inesh had said they'd both be glad to know where they stood, Jesper wasn't so sure. He loved an all-out brawl, but exchanging harsh words with his father had left a lump in his gut like a bad porridge. They'd been not talking about things for so long that actually speaking the truth felt like it had broken some kind of spell. Not a curse, but good magic, the kind that kept everyone safe, that might preserve a kingdom under glass. Until an idiot like him came along and used that pretty curio for target practice. As soon as the tides were moving up the aisle, Jesper stepped away from the Zemeni delegation and headed toward the church's thumb. He kept his movements slow and his back to the guards who lined the walls, pretending he was trying to get a better view of the excitement. When he reached the arch that marked the entrance to the thumb nave, he directed his steps toward the cathedral's main doors as if to exit. "Step back, please," said one of the stopwatch grunts, keeping polite for the foreign visitor, even as he stretched his neck to see what was happening with the Council of Tides. "The doors must be kept clear." "I'm not feeling well," Jesper said, clutching his stomach, laying a bit of a Zemeni accent. "I pray you let me pass." "Afraid not, sir." "Sir, such civility for anyone who wasn't a barrel rat." "You don't understand," Jesper said. "I must relieve myself urgently. I had dinner last night at a restaurant. Sten's stock pot." The grunt winced. "Why would you go there?" "It was in one of the guidebooks. In fact, it was one of the worst restaurants in Catterdom, but also one of the cheapest. Since it was open at all hours and so affordable, Sten's was one of the few things barrel thugs and stopwatch officers had in common. Every other week, somebody reported some nasty trouble with his gut thanks to Sten and his saints-forsaken stockpot." The grunt shook his head and signaled to the stopwatch guards at the arch. One of them trotted over. "This poor bastard went to Sten's. If I let him out the front, and the captain's bound to see him. Take him out to the chapel. Where the hell would you eat at Sten's? The other guard asked. My boss doesn't pay me well, said Jesper. Sounds familiar, the guard replied, and waved him toward the arch. Sympathy, camaraderie. I'm going to pretend to be a tourist more often, Jesper thought. I can forego a few nice waistcoats if the grunts go this easy on me. As they passed beneath the arch, Jesper noted the spiral staircase built into it. It led to the upper arcade, and from there, he'd have a clear view of the stage. They'd promised not to let Kuwei walk into a disaster on his own, and even if the kid was a troublemaker, Jesper wasn't going to let him down. Discreetly, Jesper consulted his watch as they made their way toward the chapels at the end of the thumb. At 4 bells, Inesh would be waiting atop of the orange chapel's dome to lower down his rifle. Oh, Jesper groaned, hoping the guard would pick up his pace. I'm not sure I'm going to make it. The guard made a small sound of disgust and lengthened his strides. What did you order, buddy? The special. Never ordered a special. They just reheat whatever they had left over from the day before. They arrived at the chapel, and the guard said, I'll let you through this door. There's a coffee house across the way. Thanks, said Jesper, and looped his arm around the guard's neck, applying pressure until his body went limp. Jesper slipped the leather strips from around his wrists, secured the guard's hands behind his back, and stuffed the handkerchief from his neck into the guard's mouth. Then he rolled the body behind the altar. Sleep well, Jesper said. He felt bad for the guy. Not bad enough to wake him up and untie him, but still. He heard a boom from the cathedral and glanced down the length of the nave. Because the thumb of the church was built at a slightly higher level than the cathedral, all he could see were the tops of the heads of the audience's back rows, but it sounded like the tides were making quite a ruckus. Jesper checked his watch once more and headed up the stairs. A hand seized hold of his collar and hurled him backward. He hit the floor of the chapel hard, the wind knocked completely out of him. His attacker stood at the base of the stairs, looking down at him with golden eyes. His clothes were different from when Jesper had seen him exit the house of the White Rose on West Stave. Now, the Kergud soldier wore an olive drab uniform over his vast shoulders. His buttons gleamed and his black hair had been pulled back in a tight tail, revealing a neck as thick as a ham. He looked like he truly was a weapon. Glad you dressed for the occasion, Jesper gasped, still trying to regain his breath. The shoe soldier inhaled deeply, nostrils flaring, and smiled. Jesper scrambled backward. The soldier followed. Jesper cursed himself for not taking the stopwatch grunt's gun. The little pistol was no good for long-distance shooting. But it would have been better than nothing with a giant staring him down. He leapt to his feet and sprinted back down the nave. If he could make it to the cathedral, he might have some explaining to do. But the shoe soldier wouldn't attack him in the middle of the auction, would he? Jesper wasn't going to find out. The soldier slammed into him from behind, dragging him to the ground. The cathedral seemed impossibly far away, the clamor from the auction and the Council of Tides a distant echo bouncing off the high stone walls. Action and echo, he thought nonsensically as the soldier flipped him over. Jesper wriggled like a fish, evading the big man's grip. Gratefully, he was built like a heron on a strict diet. He was on his feet again, but the soldier was fast despite his size. He flung Jesper against the wall, and Jesper released a yelp of pain, wondering if he'd broken a rib. This is good for you. Drugs deliver. He couldn't think straight with this oaf manhandling him. Jesper saw the giant's fist draw back, the gleam of metal on his fingers. They gave him real brass knuckles. He realized in horror. They built them into his hands. He ducked just in time. The soldier's fist struck the wall beside his head with a thunderous crack. Slippery, said the soldier in a heavily accented curse. Again, he inhaled deeply. He caught my scent, Jesper thought. The day in the stave. He doesn't care that he might be found by the stopwatch. He's been hunting, and now he's found his quarry. The soldier drew his fist back again. He was going to knock Jesper senseless and then... what? Bash down the chapel door and carry him along the street like a sack of grain? Hand him off to one of his winged companions? At least I'll never be able to disappoint anyone again. They would dose him full of parem. Maybe he'd lived long enough to make the shoe a new batch of Kergud. He dodged right. The soldier's fist pounded another crater into the church wall. The giant's face contorted in rage. He pinned Jesper by the throat and hauled back to strike a final time. 1,000 thoughts jammed into Jesper's head in a single second. His father's crumpled hat, the gleam of his pearl-handled revolvers, Inesh standing straight as an arrow. I don't want an apology. Wyland seated at the table in the tomb, gnawing on the edge of his thumb. Any kind of sugar, he said, and then... keep it away from sweat, blood, saliva. The chemical weevil. Inesh had dumped the unused vial on the table in the Caradum suite. He'd fidgeted with one when he and his father were arguing. Now Jesper's fingers fumbled in his pants pocket, hand closing over the glass vial. Parem, Jesper blurted. It was one of the only shoe words he knew. The soldier paused, fist in midair. He cocked his head to the side. Always hit where the mark isn't looking. Jesper made a show of parting his lips and pretended to shove something between them. The soldier's eyes widened and his grip loosened as he tried to tear Jesper's hand away. The Kergud made a sound, maybe a grunt, maybe the beginning of a protest. It didn't much matter. With his other hand, Jesper smashed the glass vial into the soldier's open mouth. The giant flinched back as glass shards lodged in his lips and spilled over his chin, blood oozing around them. Jesper rubbed his hand furiously against his shirt, hoping he hadn't nicked his own fingers and let in the weevil. But nothing happened. The soldier didn't seem anything but angry. He growled and seized Jesper's shoulders, lifting him off his feet. Oh, saints, thought Jesper. Maybe he's not going to bother taking me to his palace. He grabbed at his giant's thick arms, trying to break his hold. The Kergud gave Jesper a shake. He coughed, big chest shuddering, and shook Jesper again. A weak, stuttering jiggle. Then Jesper realized the soldier wasn't shaking him. The soldier was just shaking. A low hiss emerged from the giant's mouth, the sound of eggs dropped onto a hot skillet. Pink foam bubbled up from his lips, a froth of blood and saliva that dribbled over his chin, and Jesper recoiled. The soldier moaned. His massive hands released Jesper's shoulder, and Jesper edged backward, unable to tear his eyes from the Kergud as his body began to convulse, chest heaving. The soldier bent double as a stream of pink bile spewed from his lips, spattering the wall. "Missed me again," said Jesper, trying not to gag. The giant tipped sideways and toppled to the floor, still as a fallen oak. And for a moment, Jesper just stared at his enormous body. Then sense returned to him. How much time had he lost? He bolted back toward the chapels at the end of the thumb nave. Before he reached the door, Inej emerged, hurrying toward him. He'd missed the meet. She wouldn't have come after him unless she thought he was in trouble. "Jesper, where?" "Gun," he demanded. Without another word, she unslung it from her shoulder. He snatched it from her, running back toward the cathedral. If he could just make it up to the arcade. The siren sounded. Too late. He'd never make it in time. He was going to fail them all. What good is a shooter without his guns? What good was Jesper if he couldn't make the shot? They'd be trapped in the city. They'd be jailed, probably executed. Kue would be sold to the highest bidder. Parem would burn a swath through the world, and Grisha would be hunted with even more fervor. In Fjorda, the Wandering Isle, Novye Zem, the Zoa would vanish, pressed into military service, devoured by this curse of a drug. The siren rose and fell. There were shouts inside the cathedral. People were running for the main doors. Soon they'd spill over into the thumb, seeking another way out. Anyone can shoot, but not everybody can aim, his mother's voice. Where's Zoa? You and me. Impossible. He couldn't even get eyes on Kue from here, and no one could shoot around the corner. But Jesper knew the layout of the cathedral well enough. He knew it was a straight shot up the aisle to where the auction block stood. He could see the second button on Kue's shirt in his mind's eye. Impossible. A bullet had only one trajectory. But if that bullet could be guided, not everyone can aim. "Jesper," said Inej from behind. He raised his rifle. It was an ordinary firearm, but he'd converted it himself. There was only a single round inside it. Non-lethal, a mixture of wax and rubber. If he missed, someone could be hurt badly. If he didn't shoot, a lot of people would be hurt. Hell, Jesper thought, maybe if I miss Kue, I'll take out one of Vanek's eyes. He'd worked with gunsmiths, made his own ammunition. He knew his guns better than the rules of Mecha's wheel. Jesper focused on the bullet, sensed the smallest parts in it. Maybe it was the same. A bullet in a chamber, spending his whole life waiting for the moment when he would have direction. Anyone can shoot. "Inej," he said, "if you have a spare prayer, this would be the time for it." And then he fired. It was as if time slowed. He felt the kick of the rifle, the unstoppable momentum of the bullet. With all his will, he focused on its wax casing and pulled to the left. The shot still ringing in his ears. He felt the bullet turn, focused on that button, the second button. Little piece of wood, the threads holding it in place. It's not a gift, it's a curse. But when it came down to it, Jesper's life had been full of blessings. His father, his mother, Inej, Nina, Matthias leading them across the muddy canal. Kaz, even Kaz, with all his cruelties and failings, had given him a home and a family in the dregs when Catadan might have swallowed him whole. And Wylan, who had understood before Jesper had that the power inside him might be a blessing too. "What did you just do?" asked Inej. Maybe nothing, maybe the impossible. Jesper never could resist long odds. And he shrugged, saying the same thing I always do. I took a shot. And that's the end of chapter 36. Holy fuck. Only 7 more chapters to go, guys. Only 7 more chapters to go. And now we're hopping back into Kaz's perspective, which is only gonna be fucking insane, I feel. Kaz had been standing next to Kuwei when the bullet struck and had been the first to his side. He heard a smattering of gunfire in the cathedral, most likely panicked stopwatch officers with hasty trigger fingers. Kaz knelt over Kuwei's body, hiding his left hand from view, and jabbed the syringe into the shoeboy's arm. There was blood everywhere. Yellen Ratmacher had fallen to the stage and was bellowing, "I've been shot!" He had not been shot. Kaz shouted for the medic. The little bald man stood paralyzed beside the stage where he'd been tending to Wylan, his face horror-stricken. Matthias seized the medic's elbow and dragged him over. People were still pushing to get out of the church. A brawl had erupted between the Rafkan soldiers and the Fjordan as Sturmhond, Zoya, and Genya bolted for an exit. The members of the Merchant Council had surrounded Vanek with a clutch of men from the Stadtwatch. He wasn't going anywhere. A moment later, Kaz saw Inesh and Jesper pushing against the tides of people trying to escape down the center aisle. Kaz let his eyes scan Inesh once. We already have the next book planned. Sorry. Okay. She was bloody. Her eyes were red and swollen, but she seemed all right. Kuwei, said Inesh. We can't help him now, said Kaz. Wylan, Jesper said, taking in the cuts and rapidly forming bruises. Saints, is all that real? Annika and Keeg did a number on him. I wanted it to be believable, said Wylan. I admire your commitment to the craft, said Kaz. Jesper, stay with Wylan. They're going to want to question him. I appreciate the follow. Thank you so much. Oh my god. I'm fine, said Wylan. Though his lip was so swollen, it sounded more like I'm fine. Why was there no bot message coming up for it? Oh, it's fine. Kaz spared a single nod from Matthias as 2 Stadtwatch guards lifted Kuwei's body into a stretcher. Instead of fighting the crowds in the cathedral, they headed for the arch that led to Gazen's Littlefinger and the exit beyond. Matthias trailed them, pulling the medic along. There could be no questions surrounding Kuwei's survival. Kaz and Inesh followed him into the nave, but Inesh paused at the archway. Kaz saw her look once over the shoulder, and when he tracked her gaze, he saw that Vanek, surrounded by furious councilmen, was staring right back at her. He remembered the words she'd spoken to Vanek on Gudmet Bridge. You will see me once more, but only once. From the nervous bob of Vanek's throat, he was remembering too, and Inesh gave the smallest bow. They raised up the pinky nave into the chapel, but the door to the street and the canal beyond was locked. Behind them, the door to the chapel banged shut. Pecker Rollins leaned back against it, surrounded by 4 of his Dime Lion crew. Right on time, said Cass. I suppose you predicted this too, you tricksy bastard. I knew you wouldn't let me walk away this time. No, Rollins conceded. When you came to me looking for money, I should have gutted you and your friends and saved myself and a lot of hassle. That was foolish of me. Rollins began to shrug off his jacket. I can admit, I didn't show you the proper respect, lad. But now you've got it. Congratulations. You're worth the time it's going to take me to beat you to death with that stick of yours. Inesh drew her knives. No, little girl, Rollins said warningly. This is between me and this skiv-stained upstart. Kaz nodded to Inesh. He's right. We're long overdue for a chat. Rollins laughed, unbuttoning his cuffs and rolling up his sleeves. The time for talk is over, lad. You're young, but I've been brawling since long before you were born. Cass didn't move. He kept his hands resting on his cane. I don't need to fight you, Rollins. I'm going to offer you a trade. A fair exchange in the Church of Barter. You cost me a lot of money and earned me a lot of trouble with your scheming. I don't see what you could possibly have to offer that would satisfy me as much as killing you with my bare hands. It's about the Kalish Prince. 3 stories of paradise. The finest gambling den on East Stave. You plant a bomb there or something? No, I mean the little Kalish Prince. Rollins stilled. Fond of sweets, red hair like his father, doesn't take very good care of his toys. Cass reached into his coat and drew out a small crocheted lion. It was a faded yellow, its yarn mane tangled and stained by dark soil. Cass let it drop to the floor. Rollins stared at it. What is that? He said, his voice a little more than a whisper. Then, as if coming back to himself, he shouted, What is that? You know what it is, Rollins. And weren't you the one who told me how much alike you and Vanek are? Men of industry, building something to leave behind. Both of you so concerned with your legacy. What good is all of that, if there's no one to leave it to? So I found myself asking, just who is he building for? Rollins clenched his fists, the meaty muscles of his forearms flexing, his jowls quivering. I will kill you, Brecker. I will kill everything you love. Now Kaz laughed. The trick is not to love anything, Rollins. You can threaten me all you like. You can gut me where I stand, but there's no way you'll find your son in time to save him. Shall I have him sent to your door with his throat cut and dressed in his best suit? You trifling piece of barrel trash, Rollins snarled. What the hell do you want from me? Cass felt his humor slide away, felt that dark door open inside of him. I want you to remember. Remember what? 7 years ago, you ran a con on 2 boys from the south. farm boys too stupid to know any better. You took us in, made us trust you, fed us chutzpah with your fake wife and your fake daughter. You took our trust, and then you took our money, and then you took everything. He could see Rollins's mind working. Can't quite recall. There were so many, weren't there? How many swindles that year? How many unlucky pigeons have been conned in the time since? You have no right, Pekka said angrily, his chest rising and falling in ragged bursts, his eyes drawn again and again to the toy lion. Don't worry. Your boy isn't dead. Yet. Cass watched Pekka's face closely. Here, I'll help. You used the name Jakob Hertzun. You made my brother a runner for you. You operated out of a coffee house. Across from the park, Pekka said quickly. The one with the cherry trees. That's it. It was a long time ago, boy. You duped us out of everything. We ended up on the streets, and then we died. Both of us in our own way, but only one of us was reborn. Is that what this has been about all this time? Why you look at me with murder in those shark's eyes of yours? Pekka shook his head. You were two pigeons, and I happened to be the one who plucked you. If it hadn't been me, it would have been someone else. A dark door opened wider. Cass wanted to walk through it. He would never be whole. Jordy would never be brought back, but Pekka Rollins could learn the helplessness they'd known. Well, it's your bad luck that it was you, he bit out. Yours and your son's. I think you're bluffing. Cass smiled. I buried your son, he crooned, savoring the words. I buried him alive, 6 feet beneath the earth in a field of rocky soil. I could hear him crying the whole time, begging for his father. Papa, Papa! I've never heard a sweeter sound. Cass, said Inej, her face pale. This she should not forgive him. Oh my God! Rollins bowled toward him, grabbed him by his lapels, and slammed him against the chapel wall. Cass let him. Rollins was sweating like a moist plum, his face livid with desperation and terror. Cass drank in it. He wanted to remember every moment of this. Tell me where he is, Brecker. He smashed Cass's head against the wall again. Tell me! It's a simple trade, Rollins. Just speak my brother's name, and your son lives. Brecker. Tell me my brother's name, Cass repeated. How about another hint? You invited us to a house on Selvastraat. Your wife played the piano. Her name was Margit. There was a silver dog, and you called your daughter Saskia. She wore a red ribbon in her braid, you see. I remember. Remember all of it. It's easy. Rollins released him, paced the chapel, ran his hands through his thinning hair. 2 boys, he said frantically, searching for the memory. He whirled on Cass, pointing. I remember. 2 boys from Liege. You had a piddling little fortune. Your brother fancied himself a trader, wanted to be a merge and get rich like every other nub who steps off a bro boat in a barrel. That's right. 2 more fools for you to cozy. Now tell me his name. Kaz and... Rollins clasped his hands on top of his head. Back and forth he crossed the chapel, back and forth, breathing heavily as if he'd run the length of the city. Kaz and... He returned back to Kaz. I can make you rich, Brecker. I can make myself rich. I can give you the barrel. Influence you've never dreamed of. Whatever you want. Bring my brother back from the dead. He was a fool and you know it. He was like any other mark, thinking he was smarter than the system, looking to make quick coin. You can't fleece an honest man, Brecker. You know that. Greed is my lever. Pekka Rollins had taught him that lesson. And he was right. They had been fools. Maybe one day Kaz could forgive Geordie for not being the perfect brother he held in his heart. Maybe he could even absolve himself from being the kind of gullible, trusting boy who believed someone might simply want to be kind. But for Rollins, there would be no reprieve. You tell me where he is, Brecker. Rollins roared in his face. You tell me where my son is. Say my brother's name. Speak it like they do in the magic shows on East Stave. Like an incantation. You and your boy. What right does your son have to be his precious, coddled life? How is he different from me or my brother? I don't know your brother's name. I don't remember. I was making my name. I was making a little scrub. I thought you two would have a rough week and head home to the country. No, you didn't. You never gave us another thought. Please, Kaz, whispered Inesh. Don't do this. Don't be this. Rollins groaned. I'm begging you. Are you? You son of a bitch. Kaz consulted his watch. All this time talking while your boy is lost in the dark. Pekka glanced at his men. He rubbed his hands over his face and then slowly, his movements heavy, as if he had to fight every muscle of his body to do it, Rollins went to his knees. Kaz saw the dime lions shake their heads. Weakness never earned respect in a barrel, no matter how good the cause. I'm begging you, Brecker. He's all I have. Let me go to him. Let me save him. Kaz looked at Pekka Rollins, Jakob Hetsun, kneeling before him at last, eyes wet with tears, pain carved into the lines of his flushed face. Brick by brick. It was a start. Your son is in the southernmost corner of Tuckmaker's Field, 2 miles west of Applebrook. I've marked the plot with a black flag. If you leave now, you should get him in plenty of time. Pekka lurched to his feet and began calling orders. Send ahead to the boys to have horses waiting. And get me a medic. The plague. The one who's on call for the Emerald Palace. You haul him out of the sick ward yourself if you have to. He jabbed a finger into Kaz's chest. You'll pay for this, Brecker. You'll pay and keep paying. There will be no end to your suffering. Kaz met Pekka's gaze. Suffering's like anything else. Live with it long enough, you learn to like the taste. Thea's birthday today? Fuck yeah, let's go. Let's go, said Rollins. He fumbled with the locked door. Where's the damn key? One of his men came forward with it, but Kaz noticed the distance he kept from his boss. He'd be telling the story of Pekka Rollins on his knees all over the barrel tonight, and Rollins must know it too. He loved his son enough to wager the whole of his pride and reputation. Kaz supposed that should count for something. Maybe just someone else it would have. The door to the street burst open, and a moment later, they were gone. Ines sank down into a squat, pressing her palms into her eyes. Would he get there in time? What? She stared up at him. He was going to miss that look of surprise. You didn't do it. You didn't bury him. I've never seen the kid. But the lion? It was a guess. Pekka's pride in the dime lions is plenty predictable. Kid probably has 1,000 lions to play with and a giant wooden lion to ride around on. How did you even know he had a child? I figured it out that night at Vanek's house. Rollins wouldn't stop flapping his gums about the legacy he was building. I knew he had a country house, liked to leave the city. I just figured he had a mistress stashed somewhere. But what he said that night made me think again. And that he had a son, not a daughter? That was a guess too. An educated one. He named his new gambling hall the Kalish Prince. Had to be a little red-headed boy. What kid isn't fond of sweets? She shook her head. What will he find in the field? Nothing at all. No doubt his people will report to us that his son is safe and sound and doing whatever pampered children do when their fathers are away. But hopefully Pekka will spend a few agonizing hours digging in the dirt and wandering in circles before that. The important thing is that he won't be around to back up any of Vanek's claims and that people will hear that he fled the city in a rush, with a medic in tow. Ines gazed up at him, and Kaz could see her completing the puzzle. The outbreak sites. The Kalish Prince, the Emerald Palace, the sweet shop, all businesses owned by Pekka Rollins. They'll be shut down and quarantined for weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if the city closes some of his other holdings as a precaution if they think his staff is spreading disease. It should take him at least a year to recover financially, maybe more if the panic lasts long enough. Of course, if the council thinks he helped set up a false consortium, they may never grant him a license to operate again. Fate has plans for us all, Ines said quietly. And sometimes fate needs a little assistance. Ines frowned. I thought you and Nina chose 4 outbreak sites on the staves. Kaz straightened his cuffs. I also had her stop at the menagerie. She smiled then, her eyes red, her cheeks scattered with some kind of dust. It was a smile he thought he might die to earn again. Kaz checked the time. We should go. This isn't over. He offered her a gloved hand. Ines heaved a long, shuddering breath and took it, rising like smoke from a flame. She did not let go. You showed mercy, Kaz. You were the better man. There she went again, seeking decency when there was none to be had. Ines, I could only kill Pekka's son once. He pushed the door open with his cane. He can imagine his death 1,000 times. Holy fuck. Kaz, you fucking bastard, bro. What the fuck? I can't with this man. I can't. Kaz is a little bit cuckoo. Holy shit. I think I'm gonna do one more chapter because it's a short one even because we're only like I'm getting pretty sleepy, but like we have like 50 pages left or something. So yeah, we're gonna do one more chapter and then I'm probably gonna head off. There's not gonna be Genshin or anything today. I'm just too tired. I definitely have to do Genshin soon though because I want to do the event. But I also still need to figure some shit out with the capture card. I still don't know what's going on. I need to buy a different cable to test some things. And I haven't gotten a chance to buy it yet. The capture card is still being wonky. It's not really lagging. It's more that like it seems to sometimes just for a split second disconnect. And that causes Streamlabs to just freeze the screen and I have to like reload the source to get everything back running. So I want to test a different USB cable, but I don't have that exact cable that I need right now, which is just a USB 3 to USB, like USB 3 to USB 3. Because I don't think it's the HDMI cables that are connected to get like the input in and all. I think it's the USB cable that connects the card to the PC. I've tried like every of my ports, every USB 3 port I have, and it's still doing that. So either something inside the card is broken and it's happening that way, or it's the cable it came with. So I want to try a different cable. But I need to buy one because I don't have another USB 3 to USB 3. I have like USB 2 or USB 3 to like USB-C. I have USB 3 to is the device USB 2? No, it's 3. Both of them are 3. Let me show you. So this is the cable it came with. Oh. Like this is the cable it came with. USB 3 to USB 3. The thing is, one side, like the one that you usually would plug into your PC, is a USB 3 or USB-C. I feel like something in this connection is making it like weird or something. But okay, hello? Are we back? I think we're back. Like frame issues maybe, but I think we're back. Hello? Welcome back, Angel. It could actually just be the USB port itself that, like, maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why my capture card is not working as I want it to. But I need to do some more testing with a different cable. And maybe I have to open it up. I don't know. I don't know if there's warranty on it. Like maybe if we could like send it back, maybe. Because we ordered it off Amazon. If we have a warranty on it, maybe I can send it back. Maybe get my money back or something. But it's... it sucks. Because remote play doesn't work, so I can't stream console, like my console from PC at all right now. Like not as I wanted to. I fucking hate it here, man. I mean, I bought it. I bought it so I can finally like stream even without like input delay and all, but like it's not really working well. Like it randomly disconnects and it freezes on stream, and then the audio is gone, and I have to like reload everything to make it work again, and it's just annoying. That's why I usually, especially for products like that, I usually don't really want to go for like the cheap off-brand stuff, because issues like that will happen. And now I spent 40 bucks on this and the shit is not working how I want it to. Or how it's supposed to. That rather would have saved a little bit more money. And just, you know, gotten a fucking good one for like 100 or something. In return, I don't know. I'd have to ask my aunt about it. I still have the packaging and everything. Like I still have the box here and the original cable. So maybe. That sucks, man. I don't know if it might also just be a Streamlabs issue and I might have to test it out with OBS. Maybe it's just a Streamlabs issue that it's not compatible, like perfectly compatible with Streamlabs. Because I know my cousin couldn't even use his capture card on Streamlabs. He had to use OBS to make it even work. So maybe I have to switch over to OBS. I could test that. But the thing is, no, I don't think that's it, because since in a way it's also considered an audio device, because you can connect your headset to it, like your microphone and headphones. Every time that happens, when like it freezes for a second and it comes back, I get that notification on Discord being like, oh, a new device detected, new audio device detected. Do you want to switch to this audio device? So it like physically disconnects from the computer. So it cannot be just a Streamlabs issue. I think it is either an issue of the card itself or of the cable. But I have no idea. And I can't test the cable because I don't have another cable, so I'd have to wait on that before I can do that. But it's so annoying. Because I just want it to work right, you know? I paid for it. Pay for that shit to work. Like, why else would I buy this? I mean, I guess the PS5, considering, but obviously it only goes by your slowest connection, and in this case, the slowest connection is the USB 3. I don't know. It's stupid. It's weird. I'm gonna try something real quick. It's a very short cable, actually. Like, the USB cable is pretty short. It's like not even a meter or something. Hey, Shara. How are you doing? Done with your gaming session? Hope you had a lot of fun. I'm trying something out here right now. My capture card again. Can I, please? Okay. Died. Aw, damn. But hey, you made it to 5. That's great. Fuck yeah. Alright, let me test something. 2 aliens and oh my god. Okay, yeah, no, that's annoying. That's crazy. Okay. It looks super cute. Aw. This every day? Nah. Shara, stop it. So does yours. You always look cute. Okay. Yes, you do. Let me just quickly do this. Let me try something here. It's gonna pick up. Yeah, okay. Wait, the audio is muted right now. Okay. Wait, audio input capture is
Not this.
oh god. Why is the capture card not listed here? I'm sorry. Huh. My capture card is not listed as one of the devices for this right now for audio, so I don't hear my PlayStation. But why? Oh wait. Think. There we go. We got PlayStation audio. Hey. Okay. Like, it works fine for a little bit, but give it like a few minutes. No, it does that, and then after like, I don't know, a few minutes, maybe even like 20-30 minutes sometimes, it would just randomly disconnect at some point. It's really weird. I mean, it's working right now, but who knows for how long. So what are you planning to do now, Shara? Now that your gaming session is over with them? Yeah. You know what though? I think where we left off now in the book is a good point to stop for today, and we're gonna test. We're gonna test how long it's gonna take until my capture card decides to fuck myself over. We shall test it. And we're going on. What are you going on? What do we play until it breaks? Oh, okay. That was me, because it'll be. There we go. This was me switching my main monitor HDMI source to the PlayStation source. From my PC source to the PlayStation source. So that was on me. This was not the capture card disconnecting. I guess we could go on. Yeah, the audio can also sometimes be a little bit wonky and like crackling. I don't know. I guess we can try Honkai.